Welcome back to the home studio and welcome to episode 105 of the Stevie Richards Show. Once again, it's time for fan questions. Happy to answer. Also, we're going to have news, and I want to get right to it after the plugs because the first question is a comment we got when we were talking about the PlayStation and how they're just embracing consumers just as much, if not more, than WWE. But let's turn it over to somebody that when I see him later on this year in Florida, I will embrace him. My co-host, James Romero.
That sounds like a threat when you put it that way.
Hug it out. Hug it out. Oh, sorry. I'm quoting. Yep, exactly.
All right, okay. Stevie really wants to talk about the whole PlayStation thing. But the thing is, this goes on top of the Xbox thing as well. But then we can relate to WWE. We'll get that in a minute. I've got a solo channel, James Romero. Stevie is working with Chase Brogan on a lot of stuff we were talking about, as well as technology reviews, mods in games, that kind of thing. We need to put links in the description of every video. I don't know why I haven't done it yet.
Well, actually, just to interrupt real quick, everybody take a drink once again. That's another trope. We actually did publish the latest mod video based off of ECW using the WrestleMania 2000 engine from N64. It plays really, really well. So that's up there. It's going to be a collaboration between the show and Chase's channel.
Stevie has a cameo as well, as we say every single week, 5 stars across the board. And the reason why is because he gives you far too much for the money he charges. That is why. Go to Cameo, links in the description as always, and Patreon as well. We watched Mason Rook versus Jackson Drake from NXT this week just gone. I guess by the time it's up next Monday, it'll be nearly 2 weeks ago. But this is a video, this is the match, a clip from the match was on social media that led to a load of controversy with Paul Walter, Hauser, Jim Cornette, and Mason Rook himself as well. Stevie wanted to watch the entire match because he's going to be giving a critique later today on Mason Rook as a performer, etc. And that's pretty much it. Oh, yeah, of course, elsewhere in Patreon, you get the show notes, the show before the show, and so much more behind-the-scenes stuff, which Stevie's probably already conjuring up his next behind-the-scenes thing. I should have done one for the... dude, the setup for me took so long. And I showed you my floor. It's nothing but, like, upended lights and wires everywhere and Lego and everything else. It's like Meltzer's floor. But cool stuff.
You want to do... He's just sitting there on a profile typing on the computer. The papers are in the midair and on the floor and everything. Well, are you talking about the gym one in the garage? You want to do behind the scenes? Oh, that's amazing. I want to see that.
Well, I haven't done it. We're gonna
next one.
Yeah, we're gonna set up again. But look, the only thing I've done in that place is eventually nail on one of the YouTube silver plaques. And it took me so long because the paneling, the cladding, right, on that one panel isn't flush to the wall. So every single time you hammer it in, it goes doing, doing, doing. And the nail wouldn't go in the damn thing. It was so annoying. But yeah, I'll be doing more of those. I was really pleased with that. I loved that. You like the lighting so much that I've sent you the camera settings. Have you implemented them?
No, because the link didn't come through over WhatsApp and you didn't email it to me.
It's on Dropbox, I told you.
Oh, that's where I got to look next. Sorry.
Yes.
But yes, I was incredibly, that's the one time my natural reaction about that, I had to bleep out some of it, but I was very proud of you. I was very excited and it's very motivating to see that. The number one thing with that, just like here, if I stuck with the walls in the back, even with the tube light, it just doesn't look right. And in the garage gym, it's all white walls. We rent right now, so we're not going to paint it black or put up all the acoustic stuff, but the dark background with the dark weights and the darkish equipment, man, and in the depth, you're away from the wall. So I got to be closer to the wall because it's smaller. That makes all the big difference in the world. And you guys did a great job. And I love the fact that Chris is getting more involved with the videos.
He, originally we thought, can he be in with me? But because it's so narrow, we just thought it wouldn't work. So he's just off camera. Yeah, I'm right. It's in the Dropbox, camset01.dat. So just go on Stevie Richards Show folder and it's there.
So everybody's going to be looking Dropbox, Stevie Richards folder cameras.
No,
I'll get
private.
it. I'm sorry. I just got some stuff going on.
You're all right. I'm biting my head off. My God, I'm really trying to help. All right, then. Let's get straight to the questions. We've got a load of questions, of course. I solicited some questions. Thank you, everybody who wrote in. First one is, and I'm so glad they did. because this was on my notes to bring up to you today. Anyway, Colt Revolve 666. I kind of want to know your take, Stevie, on Sony not making physical media anymore. Kind of a boneheaded decision. And there's more than just that, isn't there, with Sony recently making those pro-consumer choices?
Oh, it's everything. I mean, it feels like we're in a time right now, and it's not good at all, where it feels like anything that you enjoy or have enjoyed, I should say more accurately in the past, whether it be gaming, professional wrestling, sports, entertainment, whatever it might be, it seems like they are somehow, if they're unintentionally doing it, it feels intentional of stealing everybody's joy in doing it and stealing everybody in what they want to do. There always has got to be hoops, subscriptions, premium. And way back with the Xbox One, we can touch on that. The heartbeat that it needs for the DRM to check the disc, where PlayStation famously did the step one, like how you like trade games or how you share games. Here's the physical media, and yes, thank you. End of thing. PlayStation montage at the end, or PlayStation chime symbol. Man, that aged like milk, didn't it? That thing. Because here we are now. Everything from the price of the Steam machine, the price of old technology actually raising because of all the RAM, the SSDs, or whatever else having to do with data centers and AI, the graphics cards. That's the other thing. Any component. It just feels like they just don't want us to buy their stuff anymore. And even buying it is not owning. There's the segue for you.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Yeah, buying is not owning. So this came out a few days ago, and I'm glad it came up, really, that Sony has deleted 551 movies and TV series in the PlayStation Store in the UK. September 1st, 2026 is when they're all going to go, I guess, even if the customers bought them. Because once again, buying is not owning anymore. The reason why they've done this is because their licenses are running out to host this kind of content, whatever it is. So I'm trying to have a look. They failed to renew their licensing agreement with two companies, Studio Canal. I'm trying to look at other stuff there. So critically acclaimed films such as Terminator 2, Total Recall, Rambo, Apocalypse Now, Hot Fuzz, Moonlight, the John Wick series, Free Willy, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, Pan's Labyrinth, Paddington. Most of those are films that a lot of people would have bought as well. This isn't just like, some really unknown stuff. In 2022, the company removed 314 titles in Germany and 137 in Austria as well. So this isn't the first purge that Sony has done either. And I want to equate this, and take it off me in a second, but I want to equate this with WWE, this whole, you don't own stuff. This is going to encourage piracy. Because why bother buying something if you don't own it and it can just be taken away from it? This is just long-term rental for full price is what it is. Secondly, I equate this to WWE with the Night of Champions. They have started, ever since the Netflix thing, more aggressively, start editing stuff out, different camera angles if someone bleeds, or editing out certain chants, or blacking out certain things if something comes on screen they don't want to. They actually blurred Bron Breakker, on a PLE no less, when he got busted open, right? And they've actually gone back and changed camera angles and then just blurred his head for the last few minutes. And that's now the master copy. You can't get the unblurred version. And once again, that's just going to encourage piracy. Because people want the original. People don't want... It's like Indiana Jones and the walkie-talkies. Let's change everyone's guns to walkie-talkies. Because for a more palatable audience. Because I know it's a South Park gag. But it's true. We are now in walkie-talkie land. Is what we are in 2026.
Well, the other thing with that too is with, I can't believe I didn't know they were doing that, like blurring all that out and everything. It's a lot of extra work for what? Everybody knows he was bleeding and now you're blurring it out. Everybody knows 2026. I think people, especially with the pre-orders for Grand Theft Auto 6, making the company $3 billion off pre-orders, which somebody bought 500 copies thinking they were going to be physical discs. They're not. And I have a theory about that because the timing of both of those things are really very close together to not be collusion to some extent.
We know why, though, for two reasons. One, producing physical discs is more expensive than sending code, right? We know that. It's a money saver thing. And two, that means they, one, eliminate the secondhand game market. And three, they can then get into the dynamic pricing. And you told me this. It's like the more games you buy, other games don't get cheaper. They get more expensive because then they think you're a whale and you'll pay any price. So this is, I know we're all going to say 1984. This is Orwellian nonsense, but we're here in this now. They can charge you whatever they want. They can edit within the game however they choose. Or WWE's doing the same thing, because we've got to equate it to wrestling, of course. It's all the same thing. It's just this whole master control. We control what you see. We can change the advertising hoardings in FIFA or NBA or whatever it might be. It's all money driven, and it's all really dystopian, disturbing that they can change whatever they want or take it away from you.
You know, there's a person named Louis Rossman that's big in the right to repair. I watch a lot of his stuff, and he's talking. I didn't even know that Amazon was getting sued because Amazon Prime used to be the shopping thing. Then they expanded that to video and music. I didn't even know that basically your music on Amazon Music, you quote download it, but you still need to stream it. So you don't own it. You basically need that. And also there's a premium tier on top of that to download. Amazon Prime Video used to be like basically lumped in with your Prime membership, which goes up by like $10 every year now anyway. But now they have the $3 or whatever add-on to eliminate the ads from that. NFL Red Zone. There used to be commercial-free football, 7 hours of commercial-free football. Then they started putting in the L ads, like they would still be up there, but they would kind of put it over here, put the L. They were doing that for a couple years or more. Then it turned into 7 hours of football-free commercials is what they call it now. So now you're paying for nothing with that. You're paying for the access to pay more to maybe take it away, which then they're still going to slide in, just like YouTube does, not only the skippable ads, non-skippable, but now there's that little thing that comes across that every time you try to dismiss it, like every fifth try, it goes right in the middle of the screen. You got to go out of the video, come back in, and your ads start all over again. But with PlayStation, but guess what? This is where we're at with the analogy for this. You would assume with common sense, much like the dynamic pricing, they want you to buy. So if you're not buying, they'll make the price lower. If you buy a lot, you figured my loyalty should be rewarded with even better deals. Nope, you pay more. So on the other end of it, they already started literally putting cement blocks over the factory, metaphorically, with the physical disc. This was already set in the motion anyway. So it's irreversible in a way at this point, because the factories are already being converted over for some kind of AI or sensors for cars, for like EVs and future of cars. But you would assume with common sense, going back to the physical media, that if you're not producing the discs, your overhead is less. If you're delivering it digitally, it should be more affordable. And also, by the way, physical disc or not, they cut down the amount of the core game and expand the DLC and make the games more expensive at the same time. I mean, nobody, even Nintendo, isn't immune to like bricking stuff, because that's another part with the used market they're trying to affect, because there's people that have bought used or returned Switch 2s from Walmart that have been bricked already and they just can't play because of this little cartridge too. There's a bunch of stuff with this, but you figured that the cost of everything is coming down for PlayStation, for digital and all this stuff. But I guarantee you the prices are going to keep going up, and the amount of the core game is going to keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller.
A few things. I've written some notes, right? So with all the stuff like, safety and features with cars, you know what the best safety feature for a car would be? It's if you have a great big spike on your steering wheel and no seat belts. I'll guarantee people will start slowing down then, because one bump and you're going to get a spike in the head. Two, Amazon Music. years ago when they started, would actually allow you to upload your MP3s to it. So then you'd have like one entire media player for your own MP3s and everything on there. They scrapped that years ago. I don't know if it was licensing issues or whatever it was, but I guess it was more because if you're not streaming from them, then they don't get the residuals, those micro fractions of a cent or whatever it might be for that stream. Amazon Prime ads tier was more offensive than Netflix because with Netflix, you had the bog standard thing, the tier. Then they came out with a cheaper tier that was ad supported, and that was kind of fair enough, I thought. With Amazon Prime Video, you had the bog standard tier, and then they changed that tier to ad supported, and then you had to pay more to get the exact service that you had before. That's where Amazon were really offensive. One good bit of news is I think this is true, because my wife told me, in fact, that the right to repair, at least in the EU, is going to be stretching to having replaceable batteries for iPhones. So you're finally going to be able to take your phone, have the battery replaced, and it not invalidate the warranty or something. Because it used to be with iPhones or all Apple products, anytime you attempted to repair it yourself or took it to a third-party repair shop or whatever it might be, that would invalidate your guarantee, and they wouldn't touch it afterwards. Which is how they tried to get you to, spend a lot of money with them. Or spend, it's like over £100 a year for, Apple Care Plus or something.
Yeah, they even have tiered stuff now. It used to just be the standard Apple Care. They even had a couple times with Apple, with the Apple Store more specifically, back in the day when they would have something called the awesome effect or something like that, where if they really thought, oh, well, this customer's having a hard time and we want to just retain them, they would do a swap of the thing. Even if it was out of warranty, they would do something as a courtesy to keep you as a customer. But now you have tiers of Apple Plus, Apple Care Plus, and all that stuff. And also, they're very more stringent with, this is in the garage gym. Okay, so it's probably got some humidity. I probably sweat on. They will definitely pick that apart now to try to keep the shareholder, I guess, happy. They used to also want to have the home button. If you did take it to a third party, it would brick the iPhone because they did not have the official Apple parts or schematics or whatever. They had the schematics through other ways, like you talked about earlier. I showed my pirate hat and the eye patch that I saved for the streaming segment. But this is the thing. But guess what? In the same week, no, not that many people, and you figure people with Virtue Signal and ask for refunds on GTA 6 and other things, people are canceling PS Plus, but you just had one of the biggest pre-orders, if not the biggest pre-order in history with GTA 6 on a digital platform. So people are going to fall in line, and I wish PCs weren't so expensive right now for components, building it, or even the pre-built ones, or else I would totally switch over. And I'm actually re-engaging with my Steam Deck, which once again, that's digital. You don't own it. It's downloading. You download it from the store. But there are sites like GOG and other places, if you're a PC gamer, where you literally can download it and then burn it to disk if you wanted to and have your physical media.
Why don't we just have a tech news channel?
We keep talking and people want the game. Now, I'll say this, we'll be done with the question. Either this is the most requested or the most offensive category, just talk about wrestling. No, talk about more gaming. Chase and I are thinking about doing a weekly show that way.
Yeah, you should
talk about this stuff.
I'm totally unqualified for it, but you and Chase would be all over it, man. I just wanted to bring up the Xbox thing. A few months ago, we were all up in arms that they doubled their Xbox Pass. So I've never had. The last one I had was the 360. The only one I have ever had was 360. But it's like the Xbox Pass. It's not Pass Plus because that's Sony. Game Pass. Thank you. They doubled their price, and it was like, man, they're just trying to just gift Sony all the reason, for switching consoles, switching brands kind of thing. Then Sony does this. Then Xbox has just dropped 500 people to streamline, their business as well. I don't know, but with the whole PlayStation thing, it's for the vast majority of people, they will be handed poo and they will gladly eat it because you just got to play Grand Theft Auto 6. And to be honest, I was over that game. I was over GTA 6 5 years ago, kind of like The Last of Us 2 for me. I was like, man, they waited way too long. I loved that game with all my heart when that came out, Last of Us. Then they waited 10 years nearly to bring out the sequel. I was like, man, I'm over it now.
Yeah, it's what can you do? I like playing video games, but I they make it harder and harder and harder to really appreciate any of that stuff. And I may look into getting a partial refund on my PS Plus because my PS5 Pro is probably going to end up being a Blu-ray player, and I don't, and that's it. And living in Florida, we always have physical media, Blu-rays, DVDs, because if power goes out or something happens, we'll have a battery backup, but we can watch things offline. Now, I don't know if the next step is because PlayStation has this thing, and one of my favorite channels, the Real Life Fake Wizard. Have you ever seen him with the movie reviews? And he's really funny and really good, but he actually downloaded the game. He downloaded the game and then he went to a place, I guess he was playing, or no, he went to a place with the PS5 that had really no internet and it wasn't within the 30-day thing. So basically, when you buy a game, you download it in 30, you have a temporary license on the game, according to him. It takes 30 days. Sony and PlayStation do another check, one check 30 days later. Then you have the supposed permanent license. So it was within the 30 days, he couldn't play the game because that check had not been performed. That's a lot of work, man.
Yeah.
To not be intentional.
Dude, Sony was trying to stop me from doing the game chat thing unless I proved I was 18. I'm not doing it. Like, I don't do game chat anyway. Like, if I ever get an evening to myself, then we just do it on the parties. But then, like, through Call of Duty, they were saying, oh, now we're going to be doing, like, AI voice. You basically monitoring what words you say. So if a naughty word comes out, boy, how are you going to get blocked?
And like, if you're playing video games, naughty words are going to come out. Even me, who tries to avoid cursing.
But you know what? I mean, it's just, once again, we're just living in a dystopian future where every company is looking for any excuse to penalize you, overcharge you, mess around with. Dude, like, I read that book like once every 6 months, 1984, and this is what they do. We're at war with Eurasia. We were always at war with Eurasia, that kind of thing, or East Asia, whichever one it is. You know what I mean? Like, they just gaslight you constantly. Change what? Oh, man. Move on. Next question.
I want to say WWE. Let's tie it up with the WWE thing. One last thing, because it was funny with that Triple H segment that we did last week and talking about, and I watched the thing again as far as what he was saying, it's part of what we were doing. And it's just so weird that these companies, these corporations, these entertainment or gaming industry leaders or whatever, they're telling you, like, literally, it's 1984, this is fun. What we do is fun. You need to have fun. And if you don't have fun, you're the problem and F off.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're blaming, we'll get new fans, right? We'll get new gamers. I think feels like one person owns all these companies, like we were talking about on Patreon, where the TV executives and network executives all want to put their stamp and mark, positive or negative. Yeah, that's me. I did that.
I hate them all. Move on. Dylan Lugers says, why hasn't a Cruiserweight Championship ever really worked outside of WCW? Does the weight limit just hamstring guys for later moving up the card? How to get around that? Okay. I've got some follow-up stuff here, including a second person who wrote a fairly similar question, actually. But Cruiserweights in WWE specifically, but why? Okay. Outside of WCW, that's not true. Calgary, Japan, UK. Probably Germany as well, but there's quite a few places where cruiserweights, lighter weight wrestlers and feuds have been the main event and been the focal point of a company. It's not like it can't be done. This is like a WWE thing where for 30 years they've hated tag teams. It's the Carolinas built their territory on tag team wrestling. Why cruiserweights? Why is there such a stigma?
I really have no idea. Let's try to unpack it because I have some thoughts in it. It's usually The Office, the way The Office thinks about it, because it's not under the same limited mindset of the light heavyweight title. You think light heavyweight, this is going to be smaller, and WWF back in the day had that with Taka and other people. Cruiserweight denotes that it's almost like X Division. X Division, no limits. You can go from here, heavyweight back. It's not about the weight. I love that tagline in TNA about the X Division, that it really is just a different title, but it doesn't hamstring. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, in MMA, who's the biggest draw of all time?
Conor McGregor.
He was a lightweight. Who got the most pay-per-view buys in history in boxing?
Floyd Mayweather.
Neither heavyweights. Look, in boxing especially, that's the money division, man.
But they're larger than life.
Exactly.
That's where wrestling can
It's story,
succeed,
it's personality. The size doesn't really matter to a point.
So now that we're trying to kind of like unpack this, let's talk about that, because what you're talking about is characters, storylines, larger than life type scenarios. The Cruiserweight division has never really brought that across. In WCW will work because with the heavyweights involved, with a different gear in a way, storyline wise, especially action wise, the Cruiserweights were such a feature that stood out maybe as a special attraction. Then they tried to make them more character based. I give Chris Jericho all the credit in the world for that division become more of an entertaining character based division, but it wasn't that way across the board. It was mostly just a style, a wrestling style that stood out. And I think that's what it is. I think in WWE especially, what were the Cruiserweights? Outside of the Cruiserweight Classic, which in itself, the tournament was the character, the gimmick, the presentation, the storyline. Outside of that, it's like, it feels very much like a filler part of the show. So it's not the talent. It never is. It's creative, not trying to take the same amount of care and the same format as they do for the heavyweight division. Let's create characters. You know what? Matt Hardy version 2.0 with Shannon Moore, with Crash, that was character driven, and they did some great stuff like that. Rey Mysterio didn't really need to be a character because Rey Mysterio is a very popular, lovable character. The mask, though, and the presentation and the difference and the themes of those tie into a character-based presentation with the Cruiserweight division. But really what it is I don't think creative has ever thought of more. It's like kind of like Brad Armstrong effect. Brad Armstrong's a great worker, can get anybody over, looks great, smooth, nobody gets hurt. We don't need to do anything with Brad Armstrong. He's already got everything we need. Whereas with, say, limited people like Ultimate Warrior or other people, they need to, even though he was larger than life, I'm not saying he wasn't over in his own way, we need to protect him because he is kind of limited. If you're so talented, you can do things in the ring that people don't have to produce, give you vignettes, teach the people that, hey, this guy knows what he's doing. Let's throw you out there and do it. And I feel like the whole Cruiserweight division became a very easy, lazy way to book creatively and not take the same care. They dip in and out of it. But yeah, I think you're just wrestlers. That's all you are. Where basically a lot of guys are just wrestlers anymore.
Sabu, when I asked him this, or I think I asked him anyway, he said he didn't like his New Japan run in the mid-90s. This is kind of when he was, I guess, falling out with Paul Heyman at the time as well. Because they wanted to make him a cruiserweight. And even in 95 in New Japan, it's like, well, you've put me into a corner there. I want to be a heavyweight. Because he was kind of on the cusp, He probably was, It's still so funny that 225 is the limit for a cruiserweight as well. It's like, that's massive. Especially if you're all muscled up and everything. But anyway. But even in the 90s, like the cruiserweight was kind of like a death knell, kind of just a bad thing, really, for your upward mobility. Like Will Ospreay was in Japan, he was a cruiserweight for it, and then he had to make the big deal of, like so many others before him, I am now entering the heavyweight division. I'm now going to be the serious wrestler kind of thing, as well. So I mean, the UK, man, I tell you, the world of sport style. Size didn't matter at all. Dude, you could be 150 pounds, be the biggest attraction in the country, practically, behind Big Daddy. I mean, never seemed to matter here. It's like,
yeah, it's a
like
lot
Mick
of...
McManus, wasn't a huge dude.
Your Will Ospreay, the way you recapped his journey, that there is the way the cruiserweights or the light heavyweights or something as somebody's younger, because Will was a lighter guy and then he put size on and became a heavyweight.
But it's like the
There is
apprenticeship. It's like the lighter weight, sort of the apprenticeship. Almost like, I don't know, like Evander
you're
Holyfield
paying
went
your
from
dues as a
cruiserweight to heavyweight.
workhorse. You're
Yeah.
paying your dues as a workhorse and you're getting reps. Um, yeah, Sabu though, see, this is the thing with the style. When I look at that, Sabu could be a cruiserweight, but he should be a heavyweight as well. Air the term cruiserweight, cruising between the lighter to the heavier. You're kind of in the middle. Boxing had a cruiserweight title as well. That was people going from heavyweight to that, maybe even back down to light heavyweight, depending upon how much they cut weight and what they were doing. But when we're looking at this, Sabu, his style is so violent. It's almost, you got to put him in a heavyweight division. He kind of probably saw that too. Look at me, I'm all scarred. You want me to be like the clean cut, high flying, which I can do, but my high flying hurts the guy and hurts myself. Completely different. And I agree with Sabu. Back then in the 90s, if you were a cruiserweight, once again, WWF light heavyweight, it seems like the bigger companies and TV companies are the ones that don't get it right. When it was territory days, that was just another guy that was just a really mastered the craft within that division. You know, it could be worse. It could be Western States Heritage Champion.
He did wonders
Remember
for
that?
Larry Zbyszko, yeah.
And Barry Windham. Yeah, 2 champions.
So there was a comment on that we picked up, or someone sent us. Bruce Pritchard claimed on one of his podcasts that he once pitched for you to become a cruiserweight in WWE, and you turned it down or weren't very receptive, or whatever the answer was. And I asked you this before, and you said,
No. And if it did happen, I know what I would say, especially back then. And once again, there's a couple things that have come up over the past few weeks of me I put this analogy. You look at me as somewhat disagreeable. Now I have asked questions, but have subsequently got sent home for 7 months for asking a question to Vince. But at the same time, I don't think disagreeable or hard to work with would be adjectives people would use to describe me. Maybe ask the occasional question. Yeah. What I think, if it did happen to any extent, it wasn't me refusing to do it. If I would guess, what it would be was, Bruce, I don't have enough athletic ability to wrestle that style. I'm not as good as those guys when it comes to that. I cut promos, I do entertainment, I do very basic matches. That's paraphrasing what I would probably say. Now, that could be in wrestling, coined as hard to work with, coined as difficult. But wouldn't you say I'm not necessarily a cruiserweight? Scotty 2 was more of a high flyer than me, and he definitely stayed on his feet quite a bit as well.
that's a slightly different answer you gave me the first time, because you said it beforehand. That never happened. There was a very more diplomatic version, but
It
beforehand,
was
you're
a
like,
diplomatic version. It didn't happen. How's that?
that's better. So unpronounceable names, it's just a bunch of dots and dashes. What was it like working with the cruiserweights like Paul London, Brian Kendrick, Funaki, Nunio, Shannon Moore, etc.? And do you think WWE should bring back the cruiserweight division? We'll focus on the latter part, 'cause some of those names we'll talk about in more depth later in a future episode. Take a drink. Do you think WWE should bring back the cruiserweight division or 205 Live? And what were your thoughts on WWE taking them both away?
That's a tough question. I think out of everything, the Cruiserweight Classic being a yearly thing would be something that would be special, showcase people in different lights. But once again, we answered that question previously that there's still a stigma on the cruiserweights. There's still a stigma, even more so on 205 Live, that the guys are literally much, much smaller. They did the official weigh-ins for a bit. It took somebody like Enzo to kind of bring it back to something because it was kind of languishing all around. I feel like the Cruiserweight Classic is the perfect mix of something special at a certain time of the calendar year, something people can get behind. You put it in that NXT arena, you mix WWE with NXT people, even outside there. That's where Kota Ibushi, Cedric Alexander, and a bunch of other people really were showcased for the first time on WWE TV, or it was NXT officially. But I feel like that would be a good compromise to dip in and out, or maybe the Cruiserweight Classic could be another dipping the toe into the water to see can cruiserweights or the cruiserweight division, could that really stand out on its own once again? They've really batted zero since the WCW Nitro era, trying to bring these light heavyweights and cruiserweights into a light. We see glimpses of, oh, this is different, this can work, but never the special attraction type feel that Bischoff and WCW got with Nitro. What say you?
Well, the WWF had a lightweight division that everybody forgets. The very early 80s, there was a lightweight division that everybody forgets. Then there was the light heavyweight with Taki Michinoku that pretty much everybody forgets, even though it's the most
previous one was
ever.
the one Ultimo Dragon came out with on Nitro, right? The previous title?
Yeah, that was the same, if I'm right in remembering, that was the same WWF title that Dynamite Kid had and wrestled Tiger Mask in Madison Square Garden for. And then soon afterwards, they just gave that belt to Mexico. And then UWA shut down in 95, 96, which was, is that El Canex? Promotion in Mexico. It shut down. Then the WWF title migrated to Japan, and that's eventually how it ended up in the J Cup and Ultimo Dragon getting it. It's a very, very, very long history. But that was a big title in Mexico, that belt at one point. But once again,
I think the bigger question is, do we need another title in WWE?
Chris Super Dude. And I don't know if you've got a list of these prepared or anything, but what moves are the easiest to do if you are green? And which moves are the easiest to take if you are green? So kind of like, it's almost like a Pro Wrestling 101, just the easiest stuff to do to, I guess, put a match together if you don't want to look too bad, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, the easiest move to do if you're green is usually none, because everybody else is, but people are watching you to see what you do. Obviously, you know, you got to learn your basics with the lockup, the chain wrestling, body slam, suplex, dropping an elbow or a leg on somebody, putting holds on. These are the things that are, nothing is easy if you're green because you're not comfortable. You don't feel, once again, we're talking about the Mason Rook guy. He didn't really have a character. So what can he frame the move set around with that? Now you cast a wide net, you learn all the moves, and then you start kind of bringing it down to the 5 moves of doom. So when you're green, it's all about experimentation and trying different things. So no move is technically easy, although the foundational moves, what I just said, lock up, chain wrestling, working an arm, body slam, suplex, whipping off the ropes. And if you would look at that, the easiest moves to do are usually those because they involve a lot of front bump or even whipping off the ropes elbow instead of a clothesline, because sometimes clotheslines can be high or a person's arm straight out and they end up like hyperextending their elbow or even tearing their rotator cuff. So many things can go wrong. So what I would say is anytime you're kind of like more kind of center mass with your body, with moves like elbows, lockups, chain wrestling, body slam, suplex, when you start bringing your arms out and start doing things where joints are involved and tendons and ligaments, giving the moves, you can tend to hurt yourself much, much easier. Now, green is also, we have green people on the main roster. We have green people on TV, green people working PLEs. So green is now a completely different type of word that's approached a different way in modern wrestling. In the old days, you'd be like, okay, you're green, so you're a baby face. The heel has to lead. You listen to the heel, and the heel will kind of know what you can and can't do. And you're literally just, it's a puppeteer kind of thing, with the heel being the puppeteer and you're the puppet that kind of follows along. Now it's more, 2 green guys or girls can get in the ring and wrestle each other, and you got a referee with an IFB and someone's in the back calling the moves. So that green or that inexperience kind of in modern wrestling never gets shaken off in a way because you're so in the wrestle by numbers game. So it's a long answer, but man, I would say those moves are easiest to do. But right now, you have people doing super complicated long matches that are both green and being directed by a third party in Gorilla passing the information to the ref who passes that information along to you.
Let's forget the
Did I
WWE.
miss anything?
Yeah, let's forget WWE. Let's just go to the basic wrestling school, not NXT. Just you go into your local wrestling school, whether it's, I was going to say Lance Storm, but he doesn't have one, or Devon or Cody or wherever it might be. And they're going to give you kind of the basics to have a match around. And I was thinking, like, the most basic wrestling move is like a body slam, right? But then in my mind, I say my mind, I've done it a million times on them, and they're always really hard to do because you've got to get the timing of the posting up on the knee. You've got to kind of arch your back slightly when you land down, or else you just
And you both
roll
have to
down.
squat at the same time, mini squat to get the boost.
It's not simple to get the right landing, the right noise out of the canvas as well, and keep yourself safe. That's not really a simple move. So as far as like a slam that looks good, you can take and deliver easily enough and not get hurt, what's kind of the easiest move to do? I mean, is a vertical suplex just much easier because that involves timing? And also, I've done it where I've landed on my shoulders, and then you get that secondary bump on your hips as well.
You roll instead of taking a flat
Exactly.
bump. Yeah. Well, here's the thing. There's no easy moves in wrestling to give or take at any experience level. Like I said before, I've said it a few times. If we're going to do the thing in the fall and we find a wrestling school to do moves and stuff or show things, even from a teaching standpoint, I got to get back in the ring and get my timing down, get my body language, the way I move, the mechanics. And it might make me sore where I'm in bed for a couple because it's just so new to me. I'm not even talking about bumping. That's a whole different thing. What you described, a body slam. And I'm going to use the analogy because you have to do this. If the person giving the slam is just as green as the person taking the slam, all those mini pieces of nuance and detail, posting, squatting at the right time, kicking the arm over. Let's talk about the arm with a vertical suplex. When there's a vertical suplex, you put the arm over behind the head, you're hooked like this, it's mirroring each other. So what if this person that's getting hooked for the suplex is not giving the counter resistance to get a good either vertical or snap? Do you see what I mean? What if they're just loose? What if they don't squat with you? What if they don't know? You have to imagine in your mind, you visualize the end of the suplex when you do it. And usually if you visualize it like enough, you'll go over the right way. Do you see what I mean? But if you're being taken over, now you lend yourself, especially with two green people, and the other person, by the way, ask a question beforehand. This is where you learn from experience. What kind of suplex do you do? Do you do a high vertical, or do you do a snap, or you just do a regular one? Is it a 1, 2, 3 go? Is it the old Lethal Weapon? Do we go on 3 or after 3? People don't understand how much can go wrong in the ring with the supposed basic moves. Like you just said, basic moves are not basic at all. So that's why it's like, don't try this at home. Don't try this anywhere but a wrestling school. So even then, even running off the ropes, which we were talking about on the Patreon watch along, people who run the ropes don't understand that the way you run the ropes, you need to protect yourself not only from getting bounced off, say, without control, but those ropes could break at any time. So gripping the top rope, leaning your body against the rope, that prevents, if the top rope snaps, your feet are flat. You'll take a tumble, but you won't go butt over tea kettle and possibly break your neck. If the middle rope breaks, you have a grasp on the top rope, your body against that, and you could probably still bounce the ropes because the bottom one being there and the top one out, we've seen that happen. Everything kind of shuts down. Every move in wrestling is a potentially, crippling or even fatal bump. And
William Regal got knocked out with a body slam. You'll remember that.
Yeah.
Just a body slam, yeah. And it was Kane and William Regal, man. I'm sorry to interrupt. I want to bring up what Dutch would do. Like, his biggest pet peeve is a hip toss, right? Just a regular hip toss out the corner, whatever it might be, a Beal. And he said, everyone does it with the hand under the arm, right? And he said that's not how you do it, and everyone does it. You have to get the crook of the elbow under, which makes it easy to post, jump up, basically lean on to then get the air afterwards. And he said it's the most basic move, and nobody does it right these days.
He did a great one against Orndorff. He kicked the hip up. I saw that. I remember that WCW Saturday night, or whichever one. You got to watch it on YouTube. It was a really good match. I enjoyed it. Here's another thing I did. It's sometimes with hip tosses, I'm never really great with those. But even with Beals, now the difference between a Beal and a hip toss is usually off the ropes, hip toss. A Beal is you back the guy up into the corner or you meet him and you step out and throw him. And what I used to do, I just mimicked it right there. I was so, like my arms are so small and I'm so skinny at any point in my career, except for the fat time during Right to Censor. But my Beal, what I would do is hook like this, dude, look. I'd be under here, hook here, and throw with two arms. That gives you enough to where they shoot enough to land. Sometimes they overshoot and land on their butt. That can just happen. My backdrops are horrible. I would always take them wrong because it's just the way my body mechanics are. It's just the way I am, But it lent to selling it a different way, like Rude used to do when he got backdrop. But these moves, all of them, I can't quite say if you're green, that's the stopping point right there. If you're green, that's not too great. But if your opponent and you are green, oh my God, how many times have we talked about that, James? Two people, it's usually the levels that, that you do this. And usually if you're more green, you're actually taking more moves because the veteran has to be comfortable with that. And you just don't know. You don't know gears in general. We saw that with the Mason Rook. I hate to keep saying that. The dude has no gears. It's all the same cadence across the board.
We will get to Mason Rook, but also, do you know, if you don't know, like if you're greener than Kermit's cousin on the step, right? It's not easy being green. But here's the thing that you won't even know is where your feet should be. And then when you're eventually taught where your feet, and this isn't just wrestling, this is martial arts, this is boxing, this is everything. If you don't know where your feet should be, automatically, then you're thinking of your foot placement all the time. And only when you're comfortable with that, then can you get comfortable with, throwing out bigger moves, with any confidence whatsoever. Or it just looks like Jade Cargill mechanical. It's like stage one, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, slam, that kind of thing. So yeah, nothing's easy in pro wrestling. And I mentioned you before, and you know this obviously far better than I do. Running the ropes hurts. You need to build up a callus to that. Not only where your foot placement is as well, but that hurts. That's not safe. If you're the wrong height, you can fall through.
Everything hurts. How's that?
Yeah.
Let's just talk about everything. Now, here's the biggest mistake, and I'm surprised more Achilles tendons have not been torn, both of them, because I've seen this in wrestling schools. I've seen this everywhere, all the way up to WWE. When you take a body slam or a suplex, you can tell when somebody's super duper green or never even took a bump because they land flat. They don't put the flats of their feet down when they get slammed or suplexed. So you're on your heels hitting that wood. What's in the back of the heel that can tear real easy? Your Achilles tendon. And I've never seen or heard of anybody doing it like that. But I'm surprised. Now, I don't want to jinx anybody, but right there, you take a body slam and somebody doesn't understand. How many DJs or people that have never wrestled you've seen picked up for body slams? They were flat as an ironing board and they landed just as flat. You don't know. And that's somebody who probably rehearsed it 50 times earlier in the day or up to the match. But when it's live, we're live, pal. That goes out the window and you get excited and you forget.
Next question. Bryce Narramore asks, random question, but has Stevie ever asked for an autograph or had an autograph of someone or something?
Nobody in wrestling. We've done the pictures and stuff, but usually at conventions, guys just want to get pictures with each other. Or it's kind of meet in the middle type thing. When I met David Hasselhoff at the London Comic-Con and Kid, I wanted to get a photo with him, but he was busy. I got a photo with the car, which was awesome. Outside of that, no. I mean, you kind of get,
Was Kit the car or
unfortunately,
was Kit the computer?
both. Kid was the car, and then you had the computer,
Okay, that's what to
voiced over
differentiate
by
that.
William Daniel from Boy Meets World.
Dude, oh my God. I was telling my friend last night, it's like, God, do you know who Topanga is from Boys? He's like, no, never watched it. And I was like, what? And there's, yeah, because he's a few years older. It's like, yeah, I was watching The Wonder Years. I haven't got time for Boy Meets World. It's like, get on his
Oh yeah,
soapbox
that's
over Boy Meets World. But yeah. Oh man,
Boy
Topanga.
Meets World. He's mad like Boy Meets World's like 24 or something compared to it, like a heavy drama. But yeah, I didn't really. We went through a time too in wrestling, and now it's different. But you did whatever you could do or not do more accurately to ever look like a mark, to ever look like we're all marks and wrestling fans that wanted to get to the end of the business or WWE. And I know everybody's been tempted. Hey, can you sign this Steve Austin shirt or this jersey or whatever? They even do it in football. They exchange jerseys and they sign them. But in wrestling, to some extent, I think there's still somewhat of a stigma that, yeah, we know you were probably a mark and that's why you got in the business. You grew up watching or whatever. Well, maybe not so much anymore with some of these people that they never watched an ounce of wrestling. SGT Slaughter. So, but it was taboo to even do that. You know, to even ask for a picture or an autograph for anybody. Dude, no matter what, I'm sure there's people out there that would have loved to like have a Vince McMahon autograph or Vince McMahon picture that got autographed, even if you worked for him, just say, I got this, you know, but it's still very, in my ear, especially, I would still be like, nah, do I collect autographs? Do I do it? Do I do it? I don't know. I wouldn't do it. So there's nobody outside of, now I used to have a signed Minnesota Vikings jersey by Chris Carter. I had a football because their equipment person was a wrestling fan and I was a Vikings fan back then. And he surprised me with the jersey and the football a long time ago, which I gave away.
Jeez.
I don't keep that stuff.
William Daniel's still alive, 99.
Yeah, he is.
He's doing great.
I think he's doing cameos too.
Is he?
I think so. I've been tempted to get cameos on certain things for the tech channel. I might, like I said, I might get an EV, so I might spin off into that and turn it into the Knight Rider car and have him voice something. And my real name's Michael, so it's easy to do.
Oh, dude, if do you remember like the Tom Toms and the sat navs back in the day, and you could like buy voices for it? Surely William Daniels was the first one. I remember Mr. T being one of the first people to do that.
Well, they actually have a Knight Rider a kit thing where there's like 12 different things that the car says with his voice.
You don't have to shout, Michael. I'm all around you. Next question, Salvatore M. Is Dean Malenko really that funny behind the scenes? People say he has a really dry sense of humor, but your best friend Danny Doring disagrees intensely.
Is this Big Sal from ECW sending a question trying to throw
No, do you know,
out?
I actually know, I talk to this fella occasionally, Salvatore M. I know who he is. It's not the same dude.
Okay, but Sal would do this. So you're telling me it's Dean? No, it's Bubba, but Sal would do the same thing. I totally 1,000%, if not 1,000,000%, agree with Danny Doring. He's not funny at all. It's sometimes very condescending. It's a very, very outdated, like Henny Youngman type thing, like whoa, 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 and go, you know, like very, and in his jokes, he laughs at the jokes, or he did, to prompt other people to laugh at the jokes. And nobody around me or myself or anybody included in that ever bit on the prompt to laugh at said joke. He's not funny. I'm not terribly funny unless I'm goofing on myself, but he's just outwardly unfunny. And we already know how we talked about Dean, and Danny talks about Dean the same way, and many other people like Val Venus and other people, and I concur with that.
I don't think we've ever talked about Dean.
Yeah, we talked about Dean that time when we did the match. And now my first meeting with Dean, obviously I sat in a chair and that was my fault for not knowing any better in the locker room, and he kicked the chair out from under me. That's fine. I was A
Yeah,
dumb
don't give me that somehow you were in the wrong there. Let's live in the
somehow in
real
that
world
era,
here.
in that bubble, I was in the wrong. How's that? Even though there's like 14 chairs empty around, whatever, and his bag wasn't there either. So that's Dean. That's my first. And every subsequent, why do I keep trying to say that word in my Philly accent? Every following incident, I try to say subsequent. There we
If you
go.
can say refusal again as well.
Good. Could I? The first 25 times wasn't enough. So go back earlier in the show for the watch time. So anyway, going back to this with Dean, with the Val Venus match, just to remind you, and this has nothing to do with his humor. This is where he said, you and Val have a match tonight. You got 8 minutes, and then he went to walk away. And I said, well, Dean, who's going over? And he was like, oh, yeah. Which at Val's point in his career was a tough choice. Could have been, it's like me and Dreamer. Who are you going to pick? Who's going to get buried tonight? So, but Dean, I don't know which version of Dean that I felt like annoyed me more, the serious, condescending Dean or the humorless, trying to be humorful, condescending Dean Malenko. But Danny Doring disagrees intensely, and I disagree right alongside him.
Okay, so what's Danny Doring's beef with Dean? Something specific there, or just generally just didn't like him as an agent?
Kind of the same thing most talents, whenever he dealt with you, it was almost like he is almost like it was a waste of time, or you were disrespecting his time by even having him agent your match. And I know he did other talents. I think Shelly Martinez and other people about somewhat of his humor towards women was really not received very well as well.
Who likes Dean Malenko then? Because it's not like somebody that I've not heard really good things. I'm talking purely in an
Oh, I
agent
like him. I
capacity.
think he's nice. No,
That's fine. You're doing the opposite thing.
no, I don't. I don't. I'm apathetic towards it with him. And we're past that point. Obviously in the business, and people are like, well, you didn't beat anybody. Hey, you haven't beaten anybody in months. But Val didn't beat anybody in months either in that particular situation. And there's a common courtesy, like I talked about with Arn Anderson. Whatever we say about Arn with the Chris Masters stuff, Arn would come up, Sarge would come up, even Gurria and other people, Lanza. Hey, we have, Gurria, hey. But we would have them come up and say, it's you and this person, 8 minutes, whatever it is. Do you mind putting him over? We'd appreciate it if you put him over. You might think, well, it's the same difference here. You're going over, he's not, big deal, whatever. We're all grown adults or whatever. But there's a certain courtesy that I still believe, no matter what era, you still give it to a talent. To make it to WWE, no matter what level you're on, you've paid your dues, at least at that time. You got there and you worked. And as time went on, it felt like guys like Val and myself, let's put D'Lo in there. Who else can you put in there? A ton of other talents that were great at putting people over that did have opportunities in the past that have tenure in a way of, 3, 5, 7, 10 years, but you treat them, how should I say, less respectfully as they're with the company longer. That's an inverse that just it shouldn't happen. Nobody's ever going to say no. As much as you say, I take myself too seriously, it's not you, other people, and I'm difficult to work with. Outside, I may have asked questions in that company in 10 years, one handful of times, the entire time I was there.
Okay, the only person who's ever said that you were difficult to work with was Bruce Pritchard. And he also claimed that he asked you to be a cruiserweight, which didn't happen.
Yeah, I go back to the analogy. I wore a dress and a wig. Do you think I'm really that disagreeable?
Hey, maybe you should have been more disagreeable with that one.
Yeah,
I don't know,
that's the big, that's the critique of me in my career that I will happily accept and admit that I was wrong. I should have been more disagreeable. I should have stood up for more of my business. I should have walked out maybe a couple times. There, I agree with that.
Not quite as much with Dean, but like agents in general in that time. I mean, how many matches did one single agent have? Because I think these days it's like only one or two because there are so few matches on every show now. But like Dean could have had more than 3, surely,
Yeah,
including
I
like
would
Heat and
say
Raw.
you're talking about 3 to 4 as a heavy load for that day, and sometimes it would just in my match, say you have a match with Val and myself, you don't have to give us anything but the finish. I already know it's gonna be if it's him, it's a money shot, if it's me, well, if it's Val, it's gonna be a money shot. What's that? But nobody's going to it's 5 seconds. Hey, it's 5 seconds within that conversation. It's you and you guys got 8 minutes. Hey, do you mind putting them over? Nobody's ever going to say no to that unless they are hard to work with or very disagreeable. Now, what you will have is, hey, you guys talk it over. Come back to me by 4 p.m. because I got to write this stuff down. Let me know what you got. Dean puts a little bit of tweaks on it, which, by the way, I happily accept from any veteran. Dean and I, in that vein, totally fine. On a bigger note, let's just say this no matter what I'm saying about Dean, I feel for the guy going through Parkinson's, going through that kind of stuff. I still contend as you do. It was a total crap move for somebody to film him like that coming into the convention.
Mhm.
So we're being completely objective with this. And in the real world, Dean Malenko or nobody deserves to suffer from Parkinson's or some kind of embarrassing moment like that that gets captured by somebody just trying to get views and clicks.
Um, did you ever wrestle Dean? I'm thinking specifically ECW.
Yeah, on metal. No, we wrestled on
Oh,
metal.
on metal.
Yeah, yeah. I wrestled. This was during the phase when I was going away from the half shirt and the Daisy Dukes and starting to wear singlets and things that just looked terrible on me. I wrestled Dean during that time and we had a good match. I could have did better. I was starting to see, I wasn't quite in the shape I should be. Dean was very good to me. He was very light in the ring. Texas clover relief is what it is. You're getting your back kind of hyperextended
And
in
I
a band.
love that submission.
Yeah.
I love that submission. Like more than a sharpshooter, I think it's a great finish.
It is because you got more torque underneath, and it looks like the guy is he's cloverleaf. It looks like he's tied up in a pretzel and you're sitting back on him. And it's actually in a way, the way Dean did it, because I took the walls of Jericho, I've taken the figure four from certain people, the Boston Crab from a couple others. His cloverleaf, he sat down and did rear back, but for some reason it did not hurt anywhere near as much as the other ones. So I give him all the credit in the world for being a very competent light worker in the ring, capable of even working around somebody like me that was nervous and green and not quite in the shape I should have been in. He did right by me in the ring and was professional in the ring.
It's funny how green means something completely different back in 2000 than it does now, I guess. Because you
Green
describe
means
yourself
you've been
green as,
wrestling 9 years.
yeah, full
Right.
time. Um, okay, where does Dean fall as far as because right you've wrestled, so you felt him. It was good. It was a good match, as you say. Where does Dean fall as far as I guess competency, as far as technical wrestling, or just everything as a performer? Because I struggle with Dean in the sense that there really is a size issue with him. He's like 5'6". Outside of Cruiserweights, it's tough to take him seriously. With WCW, like they had him wrestling Kurt Hennig and Mongo McMichael and stuff, and it always looked ridiculous in that sense. And WCW at one point did try and give him the old shove along with Benoit, Shane Douglas around that kind of mid-'99 Revolution kind of time when Shane came back as well. I don't know. Do you think Dean is, as a performer, underrated, overrated? Where do you see him? Because he doesn't really kind of come up in conversations too much.
I think Dean, there's no underrated or overrated with Dean. It's about placement. You just talked about good placement and bad placement. That's on creative. Dean is one of the guys that if you said in an earlier question that we answered, who would benefit from a cruiserweight division, an actual special attraction? These guys live in their own universe. That's where now Dean has also kind of suffered from not a complimentary opponent that can make him stand out or what he does. His best opponent, storyline wise, in my estimation, was Chris Jericho.
Hmm.
Because Chris was so swarmy over the time. He carried about 90% of the storyline, the promos, the work. All Dean had to do was shut the big mouth up. That's where, and also the man of 1,000 holds, and then Jericho does 1,004. just to got Jericho over, but didn't really bury Dean, just kind of like made it a bit of a parody. But in the ring, Jericho had his big mouth shut at times by Dean, who was all business. So you see how if you get two guys with the clash of similar styles and similar lack of character and over the top personality, it can be a boring match. Now, once again, I feel like too, I think it's the Halloween Havoc match with Ray. I'm not sure they had so many great matches. When Dean wrestled Ray, Dean got a bit more of the brawler, rough, edgy, kind of vicious style to him. Did you notice that? He
He
was
did
kind
with
of rough
Jericho
with,
as well, which kind of really worked. You know, with the Slamboree thing where he's Cyclope and then he takes the mask
yes,
off after the Battle Royal, and he was straight brawling, full ahead, and it completely believable. So he can do that as well. So you know, he was, and also I thought he worked great with the Luchadors.
he did. Because an American could wrestle their style, but the American could also do some catches. I see here I go. This is an episode of mispronunciations and failed attempts, but he would be able to adapt to that in a vicious, almost a heavyweight type style. He would switch his stuff up a little bit to do that. But you're right, when he wrestled true heavyweights or super heavyweights, like a Kurt Hennig, makes me look like I weigh 150 pounds. So it's tough, but that's a placement problem, not a Dean Malenko problem or Dean Malenko talent or ability problem. Pro wrestling is all about matchmaking and storytelling. After that, you can't expect the wrestlers to try to fit into something that the eye test doesn't translate.
Hey, the one great thing about WCW is they had so many people on the roster. They would just throw two people out there, and how would it look? Who cares? Throw Jim Duggan out there with who was the breakdancing cruiserweight? I've forgotten his name with the silver jacket and the beret on or whatever.
Oh God, I remember.
I can't. I
Yes,
was like,
but he did
who
wrestle
would
somebody
book
like
that?
Duggan.
Yeah, who would book it? But it was still hilarious. It's nice to see what is going to happen. We're going to move on. From Universal Friend, Kevin Nash recently talked again about unionization, and I found it interesting where he flip-flops on the topic. Before, he was gung-ho on wrestlers needing a union and insurance and advocating for a SAG, it was a Screen Actors Guild, to get involved as far as a union goes. Then a few weeks later, he's saying he can see it from both sides, and now there isn't much of a need for a union these days as there was in the 90s. Is he getting fed lines from WWE, and is his best buddy Triple H taking the party line?
It sure seems like a big reversal on that. Maybe it's to the point now where there's wrestlers that dip in and out of that and talk about it from time to time. And it used to be once you brought that up, much like Jesse Ventura talked about when he brought it up, and Hogan stooged him off, according to Vince McMahon on the stand during Discovery, it's over. You're always going to take care of one to maybe five people in the company. There's definitely going to be one that you're really, really going to take care of, like a Hogan. Now they have a mix of maybe 5 to 6 people they really, really take care of. And if there was a union, much like Ryback said, even pay and stuff, and that's a rabbit hole, and that's kind of like a tough thing to hash out. But usually you get two different reactions. You get either, if somebody advocates for it, and then you look around and say, well, there's always going to be these people that are going to counter it. So why should I bother? Let me just get mine. And then there's the people that somebody says, maybe possibly, hey, man, that kind of looks bad. And we're starting to get questions about unionization. And there's other people that might look into this. Could well, not so much. I don't think Triple H says, hey, say this. But Hunter would say, you have to kind of look at it from our point of view. And that's where Kevin Nash might do that. Or he just legitimately changed his mind because Kevin Nash was also somebody that benefited from the independent contractor stuff throughout his career. And now, he might be like, okay, well, if I say that and I'm flip-flop, it's very, very complex. I can't speak for Kevin,
That's fine.
especially where I'm at. I can't speak for Kevin.
Oh, well, we're bottom feeders here, but I'm going to give you the quote, and like the last line in this, pay extra close attention to. If when I love when Dutch says, when somebody tells you who they are, believe them. And this is perfect. Right, here's the quote. I just wish that the WWE guys were getting a bigger percentage of what was being brought in than they are, Nash said. I'd like for it to be an open door to sit down, and it'll just never get there. Because, I made some inroads with SAG. I wanted to get involved with the whole union thing and insurance and everything. And it was one of those things where, just like, as I started to dive into it, I sent a message to Andrew Yang, who I guess was the president, and he got back to me. But I didn't get back to him because it was just like, what benefit does this do to me? I'm done wrestling. I was like, hang on. So this was a big issue a few weeks ago, and you couldn't even be bothered replying to the guy who was offering to talk to you to help. And like, how selfish can you be? What else you got to do? You're not really acting. You're not wrestling. You barely podcast. You barely wake. Why don't you do something good for people, or at least attempt to? And that's why I'm now thinking, oh well, it's funny how it's 50-50 now. You've got to see it from both sides, and now he doesn't want to pursue the whole unionization, or not that it'd ever take probably in wrestling, but it's like I'm reading between the lines here. I don't know about you.
Well, I don't know, but you told me to pay attention to that last line. That's the two last lines, and that's kind of saying the quiet part out loud, right?
Hmm.
I got mine, so why should I even bother at this point? And you know what? I mean, like I said, I try to take a George Carlin approach to a lot of things in wrestling and just remove the emotion or any kind of stuff like that, or at least have some fun with it. I definitely think this is the biggest elephant in the room for decades upon decades. I say that because if something happens to where they're not independent contractors, let's be real here. Everybody's afraid to say maybe what, two or three out of the 19 parameters or check marks are possibly, it's not even a full 2 to 3. They're still kind of wavering like a 70-30 or something that in the way, but everything else is employee. You're told when to show up, you're told when to work, you're told how to dress, you're told exactly how your match is going to go, more so than ever, right? Not just to finish. You're told when to work, you can't take days off, and you definitely can't turn around in that analogy that people use. Like, okay, I painted your house on Monday. Now I'm going to go paint AEW's house on Wednesday. No, you're not an independent contractor. You can't do that. By the way, non-compete clauses or no-compete clauses should be illegal. The minute, especially if you're getting fired, that whole night will pay you for 90 days. It's a way to skirt that, keep you quiet, and keep you happy. But the real thing is
devalued as well.
Devalued. That 90 days that you're getting paid, how much money and time and energy and traction as far as you leaving one company or being told to leave and going to another it's so much, how should I say? It's just so much gaslighting that's involved with this that, hey, don't worry, you'll make more. Well, just pay me more. How's that? I've always gotten that with the $75,000 a year guarantee. The thing that happens too with WWE and wrestling in general, and I talked about this with the video game royalties, you may be owed 60 or 70,000 for a quarter with say royalties. We're going to give you 30. 30,000 is a lot of money, but it's not what you're owed. But are you going to complain? Because guess what? We'll give you your 70, but hey, house is light, brother. You're only getting 5 for the next 8 quarters because we're going to get that money back. Just like first class plane tickets, the tour bus. You think that the company is just giving you those things? They're getting it back. Maybe not today or tomorrow, but they are. And a union or any kind of group mentality, dude, health insurance alone, just health insurance. I'm by no means one side of the aisle or the other or anything. There's nothing political here except me saying, just take care of the wrestlers. And then when they're done, this is why a union or SAG or anything like that, to have something afterwards for them to be able to live a life. But I've always had the impression with WWE and wrestling in general, and even sometimes fans have this attitude. You're done entertaining us. Can you just go away? Can you just disappear? Can you just die? Can you just get out? You're old news. Anything I say off base with that?
No, we'll be talking about Sheamus in a bit. Kevin Nash in the next quote, I won't go through all of it, but he's saying, well, we needed a union back in the 90s a lot more than they do now because there's Netflix money, ESPN money, $350,000 base salary for main roster. Okay, well, if that was true and you felt the same, I guess, back in the 90s, why didn't you make any stink of it then? It's because you're getting paid too much. It didn't benefit you. And that's why there'll never be a union in wrestling, because the only voices powerful enough to enact change are getting too taken care of to rock the boat. So apparently it wasn't that big of a deal to Kevin Nash or whoever else it might be to start a union. You know, there was an interview with Bailey not too long ago with whoever it was. It wasn't a wrestling interview. It was a regular, journalist, whoever it may be. And they were like shocked when they found out that the company didn't spring for the... I mean, they do for the flights, but the rental cars, they've got to find their own hotels, they've got to find this, that, and the other. It's a lot easier now than it used to be, obviously, with less days. But like, they were shocked. It's like, what do you mean you're independent contractors, yet you don't get these benefits, yet you have to do all your own logistics for the most part as well? And it's like, outside of wrestling, people are like, what? How does this work?
But it's always going to work that way because you know why? There's always somebody that wants to live out the childhood dream. They always want to go to WWE or they always wanted to be in wrestling. And you know what? We don't discount the fact you just have to know a little bit more from videos like this and other things. And if you still want to go ahead with your dream of becoming a WWE superstar or wrestler in general, go right ahead. I don't regret any of the stuff that I've done. I could have handled things differently. It could have, but they made what we have today and the person I am today. But the thing with Nash, going back to that, I'm kind of like, I'm reading between the lines and there's something missing here, unless the very last line is the exact reason when he says, I sent a message to Andrew Yang. He got back to me. This is the part right here. But I didn't get back to him because it was just like, what benefit does this do to me? What was in between the communication when you started to dive into it? You communicated, reached out to Andrew Yang with, I guess, starting a conversation to see what can we do to get SAG involved is my assumption. Something happened, and then you said, well, wait a minute, hold on a second. What does this do to benefit me? And I'm not going to get back to him. Do you see the hole in that story?
Mm-hmm. I think it just makes it kind of obvious, doesn't it? I mean, oh, but at least Kevin Nash is completely independent. Oh, wait, no, he's not. He's got a WWE Legends deal, and he's leased the NWO IP to them to sell merchandise.
Which he was mad because they didn't pay him enough in royalties for the NWO, and he wanted to do a financial audit of the company.
Yeah. And probably paid him off. So, well, we'll make it up to you this time. Kind of thing. But yeah.
You know what, dude? It's just a tale as old as time, and I don't think it's ever going to change. I want to, before we move to the next topic, that $350,000 a year guarantee, it is not minuscule by any means. But whenever they switched over to it, inflation, the cost of everything, it's still, you do your own taxes, your 1099, you have to pay in every state, country, some cities like Philadelphia and LA to have entertainment taxes. It's so complicated. It's easier with TurboTax and digitally and all that, but still, factor that in, a $350,000 a year guarantee. It's probably right in line with $75,000 a year back when I was there. And with the cost of everything and inflation, you're still kind of struggling. And they are doing more and more shows, especially Saudi Arabia, overseas tours, TVs. They're bringing house shows back. How does that work with these downside guarantees? And there is a wrestler, we mentioned him recently, that when he was going to renew his contract, he wanted to look at the merch numbers because he was in the top 3 of sellers, and the person refused to give him the metrics and the numbers because he would have leverage to negotiate a better contract. They're playing they're playing like the Amazon affiliate game where we'll tell you how many clicks, but we won't tell you how many conversions.
Just to add on this, Nash on his legacy in wrestling, it wasn't the fact, quote, that we got the deals. This is the deals with WCW, I guess. It was the fact that we went into the WCW locker room and made our deals well known to every top guy in that locker room. That's the difference. People have always gotten paid, but nobody knew what Hogan got. They could always suspect. We went to the guys, and I would just say, dude, how much are you making? And they reply, I'm making 800. I'm making this. You need a raise. We're working in the same matches. Now, I mean, that could be argued, almost it could be argued as well, that the dirt sheets, your observers and PW Torch and stuff like that had a lot to say as far as the wages go, because they would print how much roughly people were making for quite a lot of years. And also, purely just WCW's existence and going against WWF and getting hot kind of forced up the pay structure and changed up the pay structure for the WWF, where they had to do guaranteed minimums. And then you can credit AEW for existing, for just being competition to raise the base minimum for a lot of people, and the fact that Tony is also willing to pay a lot, and that upsets people who don't want to pay them, of course.
Yeah, I love the fact he does that for the talent. He takes care of them, and sometimes they get sent home, but they're still getting paid, and that's the most important part in this business, to make sure you get paid, because your time window is not unlimited. I was going to say this too. The last part, I have actually seen this outside of the TLC match, which the Dudleys, the Hardys, and Edge and Christian have talked about, and separately or together, that they all went in to get paid more for the match. So all the teams advocated for everybody in the match to get paid more. I've seen the other end of it, like Nash is saying, I'm making 800, I'm making this, you need a raise, we're working the same matches. Then the person goes to the office and says, hey, why am I getting paid this? I'm working this guy, he's getting this much and I'm getting this. They're like, who told you that? Well, and now you're stuck in a way, because that person's not there, but maybe you'll say, well, that person told me. They go to that person, they're like, I never said that. He's a lot. You have heat with the office over. Now you really are like hoping there's a union right now at that point.
I'm going to skip the next question. We will save that for the next fan thing, just because we're like an hour and a half in already.
Sure.
So we'll leave that one, and we're going to go to the next one, because this kind of leads into the news. Trust Me says, what do you think of NXT newcomer Mason Rook? He's really divided wrestling fans and even personalities. John Cena has endorsed him. He can do some good moves, but he also looks pretty terrible physically. What are your thoughts on the guy? And we watched, for the Patreon, the Mason Rook Jackson Drake match. Ended up caused a bit of a hoo-ha on social media this past week as well. But you want to watch the full match, get a full overview of the guy. What did you think?
Well, I think obviously, like they said, he has really good moves. He reminds me of Bronson Reed. They compared him to Vader, I think, on commentary. And I looked at it the same way. I was like, okay, he does a lot of cool moves. He's a big guy. But at the same time, there was no facial expression. There was no gears. And yes, we used to use the term warm bag of milk. Cornette famously now used waterbed, the human waterbed or whatever. That's what I mean. The eye test, you look at him, it doesn't look like, he almost looks like he has such a baby face. Like I was saying, he grow a beard, grow his hair, get a rougher, more adult look, which maybe he can mature into something. Also, I'm looking at it going, what's his character? Like, who is he? And you're like, well, he just debuted a few weeks ago. And I go, okay, they have him doing these matches with the guy who used to be evil in New Japan. That was the clip. Then this full match where the tiny guys beat him, So, and I'm looking at like, what's his character? And then we joked and I said, well, maybe he's going to get his vignettes in like a year or two and we'll find out exactly who he is and what his motivation is. You said he came in highly touted. That was your word you used.
Okay, he came in slightly touted, I think. I think that's fair enough. Okay, right. I was going to say just then, I think his character is comedy fat guy. But then, if you saw his Titantron, you know what I mean? His video, it was tanks and stuff like that, like World War III was landing. And then Mason Rook comes out. It's like, oh my God. Okay. There's already a disconnect, and then he takes off his jacket and he's dressed like a Fabergé egg, and then I think I said to you, he's got the Mantor kind of outfit, but Mantor was like kind of like sinewy and hard looking.
You said he looks like a British PN News.
Yeah, basically, yeah, he looks like PN News. That's exactly what I said.
Well,
and then you said he was taking moves off Kevin Owens.
Well, the cannonball in the corner, then he did the Blue Thunder Bomb, then he did a version of Obafemi and then Keith Lee before that, the Spirit Bomb. It was a little more like a last ride without the pop-up. It's kind of like, I said this before, and this is not a slight, but it was like, he feels like if we were playing 2K26 or Fire Pro and we wanted to create a wrestler and just have him do moves, but make him look terrible at the same time, we would put that, put it in a mashed potato machine and just bring it out.
The ricer.
Listen, I want everybody to succeed in wrestling. And my question was, as a talent, looking at this, what was my first thing? Is he a second, third generation? Is he like somebody that's related to somebody in the business? Like, I was just trying to think what they were touting him like he's Vader. And I don't quite see that yet.
I will never see that. Because Vader's Vader. How can you? He doesn't resemble or move or look anything like Vader. I'm not just talking about in the face. Or he doesn't have the Vader character. He doesn't have the cool Vader moves, in fairness, because he could do moonsaults and was a lot bigger as well. But also Vader was really strong, and wasn't just really strong. He was really strong looking. He looked like a killer because he was a killer. Really? I mean, he wasn't like a shooter.
Well, he was a big dude. He was a big dude. You could say has a big belly or whatever, but he played professional football, so I have no doubt that he power lifted. Vader looked like a power lifter. Bronson Reed, this is the guy currently on the roster this guy looks like the child version of that. They're basically almost the same body type, almost the same exact outfits, but Bronson Reed has a rougher look to him and does look like he works out to some extent. That's the Vader thing. Looks like, he doesn't do like bodybuilding stuff. He's not trying to get shredded, but he's pushing large amounts of weight. I picture Vader or even Bronson Reed doing those Scottish games with the caber toss and the strong man with the rock. This kid just seems like he's very naturally maybe athletic for his size, which could be a negative because there's no motivation to get in better shape because he's doing the moves and they look good.
I think it's like farm strength. You know what I mean?
Well, he didn't have that when he pressed one of the tiny guys.
There's a dude who's like 150 pounds.
He like fireman carried him over the top rope and just slid him off the back of his head.
Yeah. He kind of like, he relied on the other guy to push off him, and then he always just like ducked his head so he could kind of just slip him off more than anything else.
He did the press slam version of my tope on Jericho and Jim Thorpe, where I just slid over the ropes. Dude, Mason Rook, I'm telling you right now, hopefully, don't take this the wrong way. Just, you need a lot of work. And this is something here with NXT, they're throwing, and I understand testing them, succeed or fail, but you have to have a baseline of who this guy is so I can understand when I watch that it's just not a guy that does moves, but that's his character, a big guy that does really good moves.
Yeah, that's basically it. When he debuted a few weeks ago, he just ran in on someone and attacked him. And they didn't even name him. That was just his debut. And then, because like he was wrestling as Will Cruz on local indies and stuff. But I'm not sure because we don't watch NXT regularly, but I think I've seen most of Mason Rook's stuff now, and I'm still not quite sure what he's all about. Is he meant to be like an ultimate destruction machine kind of thing? Because he did get beat. Well, not only did he get beat by a guy half his size, he also threw every 3 separate finishes from other more successful wrestlers and still didn't beat the guy. What did you say? Sami Zayn's Blue Thunder Bomb, Kevin Owens
Cannonball, and then Obafemi, a former Obafemi's finish.
Yeah, and then didn't beat the guy. It's like, who's putting those matches together, man?
I don't know, but there's also there's no facial
expression.
Walter
Hauser, he's putting those matches together.
Maybe he's the Ghost Rider. Freddie Prinze Jr. is going to have an angle with him next. So, yeah, I'm looking at this and I'm saying to myself, Yeah, the moves are there, the basics, but then again, you want to really, really break it down. And I hope they're doing film study. There's no gears. The camera cuts are his friend because he's moving much slower. The camera cuts are speeding up his movements and everything. Even when they did that thing where he knocked the guy off the apron, it felt like it took forever, even with the camera cut. His positioning on certain moves, he's in the middle or a little bit past, waiting for the guy instead of stepping in and then doing the move. These are things that can be corrected, but he needs somebody to coach him a little tough, not mean, but work on it, and stay on him and press him to become, because there is potential pretty much with everybody in my estimation, but how you're going to progress using whatever raw potential you have, he needs to. But here's what I was saying. NXT debuts these people way too early. Let's just get them out there, see what happens, then we'll develop a character. No, we need to do a lot of work on the things, the it factor of everything, the X factors, not just the A to Z moves to the finish. And he looks, especially with Evil, and I don't know his new name. I saw it up here. That match, I could see
or something.
Yeah, I could see a huge disparity in body language, smoothness. I could tell who was experienced because I felt like he was waiting for a lot of stuff to happen, and Evil was there doing stuff as a natural. You know, he has some work to do with the American style as well, but man, he had two good matches. That match with Evil and this match here was still a good match, but there's just these glaring things that need to be improved on.
It was Naraku. I'm sorry.
Naraku.
Okay, I'm going to throw this out to you, and you tell me if I'm off base or whatever. Many, many years ago, Ole Anderson, when he was booking WCW or someone high up in WCW, he told Vader, stop doing the moonsault, right? Because they're comparing him to Vader, so I'm comparing him to Vader or stories of. And Vader went, get bent, man. I'm 400 pounds. I could do a moonsault. It looks amazing, and I can, it's like the big super finish, basically, if I'm struggling with a certain opponent. Looked amazing, and he did great. Mason Rook does a poison Rana for someone half his size. That looks moronic. One, he couldn't do the full flip because he's huge, so he just lands on the back of his head, so he's not doing himself any favors there. And two, it looks ridiculous. I think it's one of those things where just because you can do something, especially if you're a big guy, it doesn't mean you have to do it. The Vader thing is a great example of, well, I do it at the right times and it means a huge amount and blah, blah, blah. It's very, very impressive. And he doesn't look stupid doing it, of course. Whereas Mason Rook, just in the middle of this match, takes a poison Rana, which one requires a high level of athleticism, two, looks terrible when you're having it done to you by someone half your size, and three, doesn't make any sense in the match at all. And this is one of the things that I think people need to be stopped. This is what agents are for and coaches are to stop you from kind of falling into your base level instinct of I've got to show off everything I can do.
Well, let's break that down because you're describing what seems like maybe the same category of moves. One's an offensive move that you're going to pull out as a super finish when they can't beat them with the Vader splash or whatever else, the power bomb. This is a defensive move, which, by the way, we just did one wrong, where even Rey Mysterio almost got injured on a poison Rana. And this dude, that's what I was more worried about. It looked okay, but you wanted to make something that looks okay break your neck weeks into your WWE career? And you got up and no-sold and did the clothesline. So it didn't even mean anything anyway. And how could somebody that light take you over like that? You must have a good center of gravity. I saw the singlet there.
Okay, let's move on to Paul Walter Hauser, who apparently I've seen a couple of other takes he's made on wrestling, and they all suck.
What is he known for? What movies and TV shows? I want to cut you off because I've never heard of this name.
Have you not? He's won an Emmy. Apparently, he's a really good actor. Like
lots of people win awards, and that's all.
Well,
we can go a whole episode about that. That's right up there with the Slammies.
In fairness, but at least Ricky Gervais was good when he was doing it. I'm going to look at some of the stuff.
Oh, that
He's
was
been in a
Golden
load of
Globes
TV
when he
shows.
hosted it.
Oh yeah. Oh, he did the Golden Globes. I'm sorry. He was in the remake of The Naked Gun, which I've still not seen and I meant to. Springsteen. He's in the Springsteen biopic.
It's not a
Damn
slight
it.
on him. It's just like I plan on watching the new Naked Gun.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll see
Black
him in it.
Klansman, Richard Jewell.
Oh,
What
is
was
that the one about the Atlanta thing at the Olympics? Did he play the main character in that?
Yeah. Yeah, he's like a
Okay.
leading dude in some of this.
Okay, so I
Blackbird
know
is one of
him
them.
from that. I watched some clips of that movie.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
also
he did a
trying
great
to do,
job
like,
in that. He did a great job in that movie. Yeah.
yeah, on the Apple series Blackbird, which was a mini series that I think is what he won the Emmy for.
I never
well,
watched that.
so-
No.
No,
I don't know.
I've
I
watched
like to
some
own things. Not subscribe.
Oh well, don't ever sign up to Sony again. Right then. So Paul Walter Hauser, right? He has also trained in wrestling. I think very very loosely because I saw him doing some wrestling in MLW very recently, and it was awful. Right. So for the most part, he's done like hardcore stuff. So Paul Walter Hauser and Jim Cornette ended up having a heated clash, but this all originated from Hauser resharing some of those clips from the Mason Rook Jackson Drake match from NXT last week. And he wrote this. Quote, watch and listen to the crowd. The people who paid money to watch this show are loving it. They do not care about the Twitter sphere's wiser than thou disdain parade. Sorry it didn't meet your Nick Bockwinkel requirements. They got over and had fun. Welcome to wrestling in 2026. Before we get to the responses of Jim Cornette and such, take that one.
No, it's very easy to say we're Debbie Downers, we're holier than thou, or wiser than thou, disdain parade members. But what I'm looking at this from is somebody with over 3 decades of experience and now having years and years of experience of officially studying film, watching. That's why I wanted to watch that match in its entirety and not take anything out of context. And actually, my opinion solidified even more based off the clip with Evil, then the clip here, then the full match on the Patreon watch along. I actually saw even more holes. Now, I'm not saying that it wasn't a good match, because then I say it was a good match, but I'm saying the holes were glaringly obvious in psychology, in execution, in following it emotionally. And even that's not even Nick Bockwinkel requirement, because Nick Bockwinkel elicited some emotions as a heel AWA World Champion, but he was very vanilla with what he did. I'm talking about all the other stuff that falls into character-based things to make me like, who is this guy? You're not telling me who this guy is. You're not doing, and this guy is not telling me, even though certain moves had very good execution, they didn't have viciousness. The facial expression didn't say, as I usually use, he put some stink on that and he leaned into it. These are the things that it made it very wrestle by numbers. And of course, somebody looks at the guy, they might change the channel and say, who's this human waterbed, as Jim Cornette would say. Now, you might be impressed with some of the moves, but how many big guys in WWE that have the look, that have the it factor, have the intensity, have the viciousness? Let's look at Jacob Fatu is the absolute, I think, peak of somebody that's a pretty big guy. Solo Sikoa, Bronson Reed. Am I leaving anybody out? Back then, it was Braun Strowman who was limited, but he could get himself over. Brock Lesnar is the ultimate example. Obafemi. Where's this guy? Like, that's your competition, Mason Rook. That's what you need to live up to. So for him to say, hey, they both got over, had fun, and we'll focus on the crowd who paid money part, right? You're going to focus on that coming up.
We'll do that in a minute. We can
but I
focus on how
want
we
to say,
spent
what I want to finish with,
wrong.
can I finish up with this real quick? We're not saying that there's not potential there, but to say, stop having a critical eye and stop trying to want the best for the talent so then they can go and cut everybody's throat to get more money and not start a union. That's what we want.
I just it's the holier than thou thing, and then he tweets out a holier than thou tweet. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
hey, and it's basically what you're saying is you're wrong. If you like Nick Bockwinkel, you don't belong here anymore. You're old news. This is what wrestling is. Apparently, what wrestling is incredibly green guys doing a match that doesn't make any sense anymore, and
Can
how
I
it's
ask you?
great.
Can I ask you this real quick? Just nothing I do is real quick. That's a joke on the Russo show.
Mm.
But when I'm looking at this, you're talking about this guy. You're talking maybe a little bit about Nash, not so much, but mostly the Triple H stuff, the Mark Shapiro stuff. It feels kind of coordinated, a coordinated effort, because it's the same talking points. If you don't like it, go away and we'll get new fans. Do you feel that kind of across the board there's this resentment, but now are they teaming up with other people, influencers, actors, and other people on social media to kind of counter the what do you call us? The disdain parade of us.
I don't think so. I mean, not with Paul Hauser anyway. Especially since he works with MLW, and they're not fans with of MLW after the lawsuit. But it's like, well, if you don't like it, don't watch. Guess what? The vast majority of wrestling fans do. They don't watch anymore. I mean, like, I know we're talking 90s. I know there's different ways to consume wrestling, but as far as people who actually watch the weekly wrestling shows as compared to 25 years ago when it's very popular, in fairness, it's like 20% of people actually watch the full shows these days. You know, you might watch clips online, you might watch the highlights on YouTube because they make it, everyone, including the official channels, makes it so easy for you to ignore the full shows and just consume the highlights instead. Then what's the point in watching the full shows? But that's his own issue, kind of thing.
Hey, even
But
Perry did a video. Perry Saturn did a video recently where he talked about. I love the video because he was very measured. Where he said, maybe it's just past me. Maybe I'm just a different guy. I'm thinking differently, and this is
yeah,
new.
no, it's past most people. That's the problem.
No,
That's the line
yeah,
that they want you to believe, is that it's past you. No, it's worse. That's
yeah.
why people stop watching.
And the other end of it now, Perry joins the group of people that are getting paid to commentate on the products, right? He can't sit through everything getting paid. He can't sit through the ads on Raw and all these other things and even the pay-per-views. So you're telling us we're wrong about everything with the current model and how they're taking the PlayStation approach or the Amazon Prime approach. Well, we can turn that around and say some people are taking the WWE approach now and the TKO. It's very it's very much an echo chamber now, and that they want an echo chamber. They do not want dissenting voices are supposed to be used to improve the product. You're supposed to listen to the people that aren't watching, the people that said I used to, but I went away. You want to recapture those people, but it feels like they're just saying, bye. We didn't want you anyway.
Dude, it's Vegas. Like, Las Vegas has driven out maybe not the majority, but a lot of the people who used to go there because it's no longer accessible for one reason or another, mostly cost. And now they're just focusing on the people who they can think they can get more money out of for more profit. That's why they say, well, if you don't like it, see ya. Because you weren't a big enough fan in the first place. You know, let's get to the Jim Cornette thing. He's previously criticized Mason Rook's work anyway. But he was particularly offended about Hauser bringing Nick Bockwinkel's name. Quote, it's friends and family who got free tickets watching Chaz Bono enduring oxygen deprivation turd blossom. You couldn't have parked Nick Bockwinkel's car, F off. Right, okay, so there's that's what Jim Cornette says. He's right. NXT do not charge people to go there. It's an application system, like any TV show, really, to be in the audience. Okay, so rather than walk back his original comments, Hauser made up a completely different argument in the reply, right? Because originally he's talking about modern wrestling, how it's so great. If you don't like it, go away. Quote, my children in their generation will never know or care who Nick Bockwinkel is or was. Doesn't diminish his legacy, talent, what he gave. It's just the truth, Jimmy. The coming generation will likely watch and enjoy Mason Rook and Jackson Drake. Boo-hoo. Two things. One, yes, it is true. The further passage of time, the less people will know who Nick Bockwinkel is unless they do their research. That's just generational thing. That's fine. That's true. That wasn't the initial point. The initial point was that the coming generation will enjoy Mason Rook, and you know, some will, but the fact is that wrestling just keeps getting less popular, so there'll be less people watching.
Yeah, but also
as
at the
well.
same time, this guy brought up Nick Bockwinkel. It's not like Cornette used Bockwinkel as a
It's an
counter.
indirect comparison. Even if you are not saying Mason Rook is better than Nick Bockwinkel, you've invoked both their names in basically the same sentence, and that's on purpose.
Yeah, but he was just throwing a name out that was so far and long ago. But still, if you watch a Nick Bockwinkel match with Hogan, with Zbyszko, with the Gagnes, with a host, I think even wrestling Rick Martel and other people, you're going to learn something from that. You're going to enjoy that on some level. There's certain matches that stand the test of time. There's a match, I think, when the Midnight Rockers won the tag belts. I watched that like about less than a week ago, and I'm like, wow, that still kind of translates today. That's enjoyable. The crowd went nuts. They went banana. These are things that are timeless. Now, what he's talking about, this is where I'm gonna educate you a little bit, and Cornette understands it. It's not a Cornette era, a Bockwinkel era, a Hogan era, a Rock era, Roman Reigns, Mason Rook if he has an era, or anything like that. It's timeless stuff. Didn't I just say last week that pro wrestling should not really change the core foundation of storyline, characters, issues, payoffs, all these things? The culture in the current eras put a twist on the same things. Every single wrestler that's worth anything has looked back at old matches, old angles, old storylines and saying, wait a minute, we can recreate that, put a twist on it, do this or that. That's all wrestling is. Wrestling is rehashing, but with a fresh coat of paint on it. So you can take a Nick Bockwinkel angle with the Gagnes or Martel or Hogan or Zbyszko and say, wait a minute, there's something here that I can twist into. It's the old USA Russia patriotism thing. Then they tried to put spins on it throughout the WWF at the time, other things about even in WCW with Canada and Lance Storm and then other people and Duggan turning on the country. That's like a minor version of the Slaughter Iraqi sympathizer thing. But that's a twist off the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov. I'm just throwing these out here because they're all from the core foundational, emotional, raw reactions from the fan base. And you just put a little twist on it. Rusev was the most modern version of that. Even Gunther a little bit has a little bit of that.
Isn't wrestling these days purely, especially more with NXT, because they practice these matches for a week or two beforehand, etc.?
It shows.
Isn't it purely just for one social media clip? It's like ECW in a sense. You know what I mean? It's like it's wrestling for people with no attention span and also just purely for the highlights for socials. And I'm not saying all ECW, of course, but even like a Rob Van Dam Sabu match was a lot of downtime, but then, the big moves, then downtime, big move, downtime kind of thing. It works better in highlights, but you miss the nuance. And then every match kind of seems the same, especially when people who are 6'6" and 300 odd pounds are working like the guy who's 150 pounds doing the same thing.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of like we're in bizarre world in a lot of ways when it comes to these kinds of things, because we're the outliers, and I put us in there because I feel like you feel the same way. Cornette, other people, we're the outliers, or the old heads screaming at the clouds because
I disagree because our shows are really popular.
No.
How many comments do we get saying I would rather listen to the YouTube shows and the podcast
in general, not just ours? I'd rather watch shows that talk about wrestling, the actual wrestling, and then go watch the highlights maybe afterwards. No, what I'm saying is the viewpoint of us. But what I'm looking at is how in the world did we come to the point? Because really, we talked about Sony and the digital things and on demand. There's no anticipation anymore. There's no, let's just sit back and let it develop. Let's let it build. Let's do this. And that's all we're looking for. That's why the Rumble to WrestleMania, I say it almost every episode, is the hottest time in the wrestling year calendar year, Because what do we have? Build up and anticipation. Maybe a little bit of chaos like WrestleMania 40. But now it's like when we say, well, tell me about Mason Rook. Tell me who he is. Show me some vignettes. Let me get to know this guy, not just throw him in and tell me, hey, by the way, he's Vader. He's Vader. He's Vader. No, I have to think that way. But now they're defending the actual emptiness of the product. Is that a good analogy with that? We only want the product to be more fulfilling and more full in a creative way. And they're saying, no, you're wrong. You're just old. You don't get it. At least Nick Bockwinkel would take me on somewhat of a journey throughout the match.
Jim Cornette responded to Hauser's second tweet.
Of course he did.
Rook won't be around long enough for a housefly's generation to enjoy. The problem is idiots in the business who are marks for showbiz a-holes, who are marks for wrestling, letting them play in our profession and making them believe they should have opinions. See Hauser. Okay, so there's one more thing I've not written. Basically, I don't know why Walter Hauser has kind of nominated himself, or in this case, or in other cases, nominated himself as the bastion, the defender, the white knight of modern pro wrestling. Because I'm not really kind of sure he's qualified for that. Because if you're going to have someone do it, you have a really, really good pro wrestler do that, surely, if nothing else. And two, a day after all this happened, I was looking at his timeline. He was doing nothing but replying to people about the second point he was making, that Nick Bockwinkel is older generation, people won't know who he is for the most part. Whereas the point is that it was the first tweet that was really anyway, he kept arguing until he just deleted his Twitter. So now he's just deleted social media completely, which is probably the best thing for everybody, because I don't know why I don't know why he was wasting his time in the first place. And two, apparently he's got a lot of time to waste because he was there like all day arguing with people.
Oh wow! I was going to say he's a half a heartbeat away from infamy because he has those three names, and throughout history, the three names you might want to call out one of the
serial
names.
Killers.
Yeah, or it's somebody. Yeah, everybody gets the three name treatment, so we might have somebody on our hands here. Who knows? But I'm going to disagree with the first point vehemently. He does deserve to have an opinion. Everybody does. That was the main criticism of you with a lot of things throughout the past few weeks or months. I know there's a certain amount of education or perspective or thinking about what you're going to put out there or having some kind of, I don't know, base or foundation or whatever. But if he's a fan and he feels that way, and he feels that way that his kids or future generations are not going to watch Bockwinkel, which you said he might be right, because people probably didn't even know who Nick Bockwinkel was based off of that tweet from a certain generation. But of course he has the right to have an opinion, but then it doesn't look great if you just delete your Twitter after all the arguing.
No, I'm not saying he doesn't have a right. Of course he's got the right. I'm just saying he's not the best candidate.
But maybe WWE, now that it's announced in a week or two that he's the new writer for WWE or he's a on-screen authority, then my theory from earlier holds true.
The Mason Rook also tweeted and said, hey, it wasn't my friends and family in the thing. Or something. He was like, I'm so glad all my friends and family could join me in the NXT deal. And Cornette responded, I obviously didn't mean that. I meant friends and family of the company and all the workers, not just yours. And more insults thrown in as well. So I don't know why
so
Mason
he did catch strays from Cornette? Well, not even strays, because he hit him
completely
before that.
Here's the thing. Everyone's misunderstanding everyone else's point or trying to switch the argument to seem more reasonable. I'm not saying Cornette. But then also you can argue, well, I mean, Mason Rook won't be long enough around for a housefly's generation to enjoy. I disagree with that. I'm sure he'll be, given a fair shake, because he's not exactly a conventional look, is he, for WWE? So if they're bringing him in, they see something in the guy.
That was my original question, because he is kind of being pushed pretty quick, even with just a few weeks and even putting those kids over. I don't know. I'd like to see what he has, because if he definitely gets some kind of character, he gets the gears down, he gets the facial expressions down, he could be somebody on a level like what a Keith Lee was. Keith Lee was a huge dude. But then again, Keith Lee still had a body that looked like he power lifted or something. He is somebody that definitely needs to go on a strength and conditioning. I'm not saying he needs to be a bodybuilder or do anything to accelerate that, but he definitely needs to get in better shape, look in a mirror, and get like that facial expression on the Titantron. We didn't see that once during the match, like except when he fired up after no selling the Poison Rana clothesline.
Yeah,
But
but
it
you
still
burst out
felt.
laughing when you saw it.
I did laugh
I mean, you were almost like getting your
because
handbag out and going,
because he was blowing up and he went. "Ah."
No, it was in the Titantron where he had his face and going,
Oh, that.
"Ugh," and you were like you nearly threw your headphones down on that one. I was like, oh
Well,
my
I did
God.
want to pick up. I did want to download World of Tanks after that Titantron.
Yeah, that's the other thing. What's the tank's got anything to? It doesn't matter. Okay, we're gonna move on. We're gonna move on. Right, we took a break, and then I was just telling Stevie because I did a video a few days ago. So, oh, the Vision's dead, or hopefully they are anyway. No, they've just won the tag titles, and Maxine Dupree did turn heel, and it's like, oh God, the Vision's just a mid-card tag team. Why? Bron Breaker's so wasted.
Even to an extent, Logan Paul and maybe even Austin Theory are wasted within this. Just an amalgamation of three guys together and now a girl. I was going to say, we did a question earlier on the episode about takes we regret. Mine was the Sami Zayn one, WrestleMania 43, going in as champion. Now I'm going to leave it to you about the Vision.
Dude, no, I very, very specifically said the Vision is dead, probably. Because you never know with these things. I'm sure they kept them. I'd say I'm not sure, but it'd be funny if they kept them just to annoy me. It's just like
yes, I would definitely be
dead.
on WWE's side with that. I would take great entertainment in that annoyance. But yeah, by the way, we are not going to get a $50 million a year guarantee like Pat McAfee.
Is ESPN listening?
Waiting. Be spiteful, WWE. Come on, waiting.
Dude.
I just laughed. That finish happened. I got up out of my chair and laughed because I was just like, oh man, because I watched your video about I was like, I can't wait for the comments.
No. The other
Stronger
thing as
than
well,
ever, baby. Stronger than ever.
Right. You know the whole, like last week did the Seth Rollins thing of like, man, I'm sick of Seth Rollins. This is just me. Sick of Seth Rollins in the main event. I've never seen why he's focused on so heavily with WWE. He's never been my cup of tea. And then this past Monday, we record this on a Tuesday, so this is fresh in our memories because I watched it this morning. And then Seth Rollins goes out there and bores the crowd into a coma for 15 minutes straight with a monotone interview where he's talking about Roman Reigns isn't here tonight, blah, blah. We know he isn't there tonight. The crowd don't. Ultimately, the crowd don't care about that. And then because he's still cheered everywhere because he's a megastar. And then after like an eternity, LA Knight comes out and they try and script an interview for him to him get booed. And he gets cheered wildly. It's like, what were they thinking with any of this?
Well, I'll quote Seth Rollins as he said it with all the passion in the world. Are you done yet? Are you done? Did I put too much into it?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. But I want to say this, LA Knight, I have to apologize. We're going to try not to, because every episode we bring up how they're not doing anything. LA Knight deserves better. I have to apologize ahead of time because I feel like we're going to take some responsibility along with everybody else who cheered in that crowd. Now you are the next one to get a 50% pay cut. I can totally see it happening. Can you?
Mm-hmm. Can you just briefly recap the Seth Rollins LA Knight thing? Just for people who haven't watched this, why Seth Rollins, who's meant to be the babyface here, is just droning on and on and on about how Roman Reigns was terrible when he first started. But he was a superstar when he first started. Even in FCW, he was the guy from day one, right? They knew he was the guy. The second they debuted the Shield, everybody knew. To be honest, I actually thought John Moxley, Dean Ambrose would actually kind of be the breakout star.
They were going to kind of make him, they were trying to figure out who the leader was, and it was supposed to be Moxley first, right?
Yeah.
Because he had a thing where he was going to feud with Mick Foley on something. They had something early in NXT, even with Piper, or they had a lot of like analogies of him, the Piper. Then it was going to be possibly Seth. Then it was Roman Reigns. Then it was really weird at that time, right? They were trying to figure out who the leader was going to be.
And then I don't even know what else he said, but like the crowd were just he got the what treatment.
Mm-hmm.
Can I also say, just in the format of this show as well, like the CM Punk thing, we'll get to that afterwards. The CM Punk thing, Sami Zayn build up was really good. And that's exactly how, not to keep bringing up Dutch's name, that's exactly how he used to build shows in Puerto Rico. He used to have a story within the show, keep revisiting it with 6, 7, 8 segments before the big blow off at the end, and then you would have something that you knew you could follow up with next week. That is how Dutch used to book shows. That is how it was. He ended up being a huge success till they just didn't pay him enough and he left. So that was a success. Everything else was kind of really boring for the most part. And then they start off this hot story with Cody getting attacked with a 20-minute promo segment. Like, why would you have like backstage vignette to then in-ring extended two commercial break segment kind of thing, and then it's like 30 minutes till wrestling happens again? But aside from that, they had that going for him. Just talk us through the LA Knight thing as well.
Well, first and foremost, the way they bookended it, that's what usually happened, at least during the Attitude Era, during those types of shows. I'm sure Dutch did the same thing. Set the table with that first segment, bookend the story arc until the end of the show. And then we did get a cliffhanger. We'll talk about it, but we did get what we talked about they don't do. We got a beginning, a middle, and the end, but something for next week as well. I'm going to be honest with you. Outside of what I just kind of parodied he said, I forgot everything Seth Rollins said, but I didn't forget LA Knight pretty much shooting on Seth Rollins and the company for keeping him down because he was using numbers and stats and all this. He was pointing the finger. And just last week, Seth Rollins was talking about how they knocked the door down and got rid of the old guard. This felt like Seth Rollins was the old guard and LA Knight's trying to knock the door down and Seth Rollins has it barricaded. Did you get that feeling? Mm-hmm. So if they thought, man, they're going to love Seth and hate LA Knight, you need some new writers because there's nothing in that promo that told me they were going to get behind Seth Rollins and boo LA Knight. The worst LA Knight has ever had, and this is because of creative cutting the legs out from under him, like figuratively, they stopped reacting so much to him and they thought, oh yeah, we're putting him in his place. We're putting him at that level. This dude, you can call him what you want, a Rock wannabe, a Stone Cold wannabe, whatever. He has his own twist on everything, his own spin, his own new coat of paint. And the dude, you can keep, and I hope they keep trying to bury him because that is exactly what is making the fans cheer him.
I don't get it.
50% pay cut.
Oh, yeah. Do you think, because Unreal's, they had another tease for Unreal. Dark Side of the Ring is going to be out like any day now as well. So next week we're probably going to be talking about that as well as TNA stuff as well with Stevie. Because we never ever got into EV2 because that is its own minefield of stories as well that we never got into.
Never got into EV2 either.
They didn't either. But I just marvel. I marvel at the fact that WWE can do something so good as far as a build on the show, and then they just have everything else on it that just be there or be actively bad. And I don't get it. How can they do this? Like that the Maxine Raquel Rodriguez match was not very good. Then they got the Vision coming back again, even though that's been a long since dead faction. Dead the second they came up with it, practically. But they're just keeping it. At least it's not in the main event now. But then it's the Seth thing that gets me every time. It's like, who thought that was a good idea?
Well, I'm going to tell you, although the execution of these things can be debated, and of course the Seth LA Knight thing going so long, I have to say there is a certain psychology to booking a show where you want things to be solid, but you don't want all these super duper memorable moments when the story arc has to do with what's going to happen with Punk. I get that. And I'm sure Dutch said that. You can't have, people having gimmick cage matches in match 1 to 3 or 4, or even anywhere on the first part of the show. I'm using a heavy analogy for that with the cage, but you see what I mean. There has to be a roller coaster ride. There does have to be a thing where people can breathe and relax and get ready for the main event. That's why a lot of times that match right before the main event was sort of a forgettable type throwaway match because you're keeping the show going, but you're really waiting for the main event. What they're trying to do is make everything just stand out as its own little main event, and it's kind of fallen short. And then, like, the Seth Rollins LA Knight booking was just like, dude, no way.
CM Punk. We'll leave Sheamus for the end. It doesn't make sense to sort of flip flop on that one. CM Punk returns in Chicago after not being on the show for 3 months. I mean, not too far off 3 months. It was the day after WrestleMania, so it's nearly 3 months he's been gone. All sorts of rumors of why he's been gone, from injury to he's falling out with WWE to probably what the real reason was is that he's been working hard and he needed a rest and he's getting older, so he just needs that recovery period. He's looking a lot better than he did before he left. He's been hitting the gym. Editor Chris looked into his trainer, and he said that like his like personal trainer is one of these like psycho trainers that like will force you like send videos of what food you're eating to make sure that he approves of it. You know, like micromanaging everything. So like if you want a reason why he's got so much, you know, cosmetically more in shape, that's one of them at least. Anyway, we don't see Punk until obviously the last match. WWE Raw opened with something different for once. Instead of just the people walking to the ring, Sami Zayn gets out of his car. I think that's right. He is confronted by Cody Rhodes, and they have a bit of a back and forth argument. Then Gunther jumps in, attacks Cody, powerbombs him through like a table, slams his door in the car. The doctors actually do their work for once and then refuse to clear him. Whereas it's pot luck whether a doctor's going to, you know, storyline clear you or not, or if you're going to ignore
Shane
them or
will
not,
tell
I
you
guess.
that. Shane Douglas will tell you that. My favorite is the agents. They never let me down. The agents and referees. My favorite wrestling trope is still alive and well. Hey, that's enough. Get out of here. Hey, get him out of here. Hey, get out of here. That's enough.
Well, it's not like they're all former wrestlers.
Exactly. You know, but I have to say, though, perfect booking to get Cody out of that title picture, at least for one night. Really well done. Gave Gunther something to do, put Sammy in a position where he was on his own, and explained that he might have slipped over in Saudi Arabia. Now it's one-on-one. What are you going to do? It was really well done. And like you said, it's always a tale of two shows. There's a tale of two WWEs. The really, really good stuff and the really, really bad stuff, all on the same show.
This thing feels like somebody was left alone with it and not interfered with. Like, this isn't like by committee kind of thing. Maybe
This
it
could
is,
be
I
like
don't know.
just Triple H with Punk and with Sammy and all the people involved, the Booker and the boys. And that is about it.
Then Seth Rollins obviously comes out, bores everyone to death. Nick Aldis and Adam Pearce, I don't know. I don't know if they're feuding at the moment. Do you think Nick Aldis is going to come out of retirement because there's Nick Aldis and Adam Pearce? There's Nick Aldis and Gunther now. I don't know if this is a way to get Nick back into the ring, or if it's going to be like the Randy Orton thing and it's just forgotten about, essentially.
You want my guess, even though my biggest regret is the Sami Zayn take that he was going to stay champion. I'll keep reminding myself of that. Do you think they're planting the seed for the old winner takes all or bragging rights type stuff at Survivor Series,
Yeah.
where they are the captains and maybe they're even competing in the matches with Aldis versus Adam Pearce?
I think his Nick's like a dozen years younger or something like that, and I'm presuming he still hits the gym, so he'll still be, you know, in great shape and everything. Adam Pearce is like 50 now, so I don't know how great those matches are going to go if it is that. But I'd
Oh,
love to
good.
see
I
Nick
must be
versus Gunther.
dust. Thanks, man. 4 years older. When am I not? Should I just put the coffin instead of
All
an
right,
office
okay.
chair?
Well, it's the same thing with you. Not wrestled in quite a few years.
No, I haven't, but I also haven't made WWE money.
That's true.
Which still shouldn't be anything when it comes to your spine and walking, but here we are.
Cody Rhodes has now been deemed unfit to wrestle further on in the show. Put it this way, as soon as Cody was attacked at the beginning, the fans were chanting CM Punk. When Nick and Adam were chatting or whatever, fans were probably chanting CM Punk. When Cody Rhodes was deemed unfit to wrestle by the doctors, fans were screaming CM Punk. So like there was no ambiguity of who this was going to be. And then Adam Pearce says there will be a substitute Sammy you don't have. It's good character development for Sammy as well, as far as like he's not been outwardly a coward, but he doesn't want to take on any challenges. Like, oh great, I get the day off. You know, that kind of subtle way of of hinting that he's not the guy to cheer for, as if you needed a reason.
I like the fact that it wasn't the overtop, like, oh, I don't want to wrestle. It's not him. Oh my God. But he's kind of like, like I thought I was going to be able to relax after winning this title after all this time. And I really liked the way they revealed Punk with the door that I used to escape from early and go up that ramp and get my rental car. But that was really well done. By the way, there was a part of me that was there a part of you, James, and everybody out there that was saying, is
Coco
there
beware.
somebody in the creative room that's saying they're expecting Punk at Chicago, but let's not give it to him just yet?
Yeah, let's have
There
Pat
was
McAfee.
somebody or more than one.
Dude, you know that's what Bruce was doing, saying, oh, they're expecting CM Punk. Let's bring out Akira Tozawa.
The Miz.
The Miz. Just anyone. Yeah.
Or bring out Danhausen, because when he debuted a few months ago, that really worked out.
Oh, dude, do you know what we found out about Punk? Before we even get to Punk,
it worked out by the way for Danhausen. I was just saying that night. Sorry.
With the Death Riders and CM Punk, we found out that they both changed in their car. Because, he turned up in his gear. Like down the ramp and in he comes. Nick Aldis. Also, Nick Aldis, isn't he on administrative leave at the moment? One, why is he at Raw? And two, how has he managed to pull off like a championship match when Adam Pearce couldn't? We kind of have to gloss over that.
Well, we kind of have to go back to the tweet about if you're not that type of fan, then you should watch.
Yeah, they'll get more fans. Okay, Sammy comes out. Michael Cole complains that Sammy is unhappy that he doesn't know who his opponent is. Michael Cole's undefeated at being the most annoying commentator of all time. Anyway, CM Punk is revealed from behind the loading dock door. The fans obviously go banana, as you would say. And the story outside of this is that the theory was that Punk would appear on Raw in Chicago and then he would migrate over to SmackDown. And it's kind of the perfect reason as to why now.
Yeah, because the WWE champion, the Universal or Undisputed, is the SmackDown champion, of the World Heavyweight champion is the Raw champion. And dude, I'm telling you, man, they have done so much good for Punk. This is the best run. I have to say, like, he won the title from Cena, Money in the Bank, 2011, I believe, in that building. That was about the height of that. Just that one night, the build-up, and they kind of, by SummerSlam, did away with all that. They had that Comic-Con where Hunter was there, and he came out with his version of the belt during that time. They should have stretched it out way, way longer. But this run with Punk, he can't have any complaints. Even if they didn't put the belt on him last night as we're recording this, everything up to WrestleMania and what they've done to him, they kept him in such a mix at the top. They've done a great job. That's why I get so frustrated that you can take great care with what we saw in the beginning and the end of the show, but you can't get anything done in the middle.
Let's go to the match itself. The one thing that I wanted to make mention of that I really liked was the 10 punches in the corner. Because, that's such a wrestling 80s trope kind of thing. And someone like Jim Ross would say it's the stupidest move in wrestling because you're going to punch him 10 times unanswered, you don't get a bruise. What Punk did was he trapped one arm, and then he controlled the wrist of the other hand, of the other arm, while punching, while Sammy was trying to defend. And I thought that was such a little nuance to an old wrestling trope. It's like, finally someone made actual sense of it, as far as something you could really get into. And I really, really, as a longtime fan and a mixed martial arts fan, appreciate those little things more than the fans that WWE want, where they want Mason Rook and no selling poison ranas, I guess.
Did you get the sense with Punk that he had leaned in a little bit, the in-between stuff that wasn't pro wrestling? He was leaning into more of a fighter, MMA style kind of thing. Like, I saw a lot of them where he was, like, when he really fired up and started coming back on Sammy, he was throwing what would be deemed as like the Logan Paul punches in the corner, in the stomach. He felt like he was fighting more between, and it was new kind of, his style had an edge to it that it didn't have previous to that. Did you feel that way? And like you're talking about, he's maybe embracing more nuance and detail to make it look a bit more real when he does something.
To say, I wish he had more of an MMA style when he was in UFC. That would have helped him.
I knew you
You
were
never
going to
know.
say that.
I know. What else in the match?
What is it? The saying this disdain parade, holier than thou. Where I'm back here. What are we? That's what you sounded like.
Well, he deleted the tweet now, so we can't read it. Give us the match impressions then, all the way through, beginning to end.
I love the fact that there was lots of counters towards the end in the third act of the match. Lots of counters, lots of things, but not anything where they were kind of prostituting each other's moves, not their own. That should be in the vein of that you can't do that move as well as the person that's known for finishing people with it. I love that. I love the fire up, like I said, where Punk was really, people went banana on that as well. I think it's so weird for the actual finish of it. And of course, they both know how to work. They both know the gears. They both know how to build. There was the build, the anticipation. You can settle in, enjoy it. And then when the gear finally kicked in for the finish, the actual finish, the fans were with it, dude. I don't know why they felt like this was not going to be a false finish off of the haluva kick into the go to sleep. But did you feel the rumble after when he pulled them in after the haluva kick? I'm like, they're going to buy it. And even I was like, they're going to buy this false finish. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Because I thought there was going to be Gunther interfering or Seth or Roman Reigns, or I thought there was going to be something that caught. But man, it was so, like Dutch says, just slap me across the face with it. And that's what they did.
Yeah, there were no Slim Jim tables, no interference, just a clean, good match. And I'm glad you mentioned that they were prostituting each other's finishes rather than their own. Which is we have also found out that Jade Cargill does the best GTS, by the way, not Punk. Boy, did she catch Tiffany Stratton that other week.
She sure did.
Is this the best thing WWE has done this year?
I'll have to think about that. They've done really good things, but man, this also, it might be Chicago, it must be Chicago, but this had, in a way, with Punk's match with Roman Reigns, had more of a WrestleMania feel to me with this, and also with Sammy being the wild card champion. Remember what I said when Sammy won the title? And I was saying that particularly if you're a heel or if you're somebody that isn't necessarily loved or liked, that people will buy tickets or tune in to see you lose the title. That's what I think Sammy brought to this, at least an unpredictability. And then when he won, but the fans, they were predicting at that point that Punk was winning. It was nuts. And I would just say, in the body of everything, in the context, from Saudi Arabia and Sammy winning it to Gunther and Cody now on the side quest, that yes, this was the best quick build to something that WWE had done that felt like there was a lot of things long-term that were paid off, especially when it came to Punk.
I think this kind of, in the best way, now completely expands everyone's stories. Because I think this would give Sammy a legit grievance where he turns instead of like that in-between kind of guy to like a fully fledged bad guy. I think that's the obvious thing that they're going to do. This guy, as you say, Gunther and Cody, the side quest for now. What happens with Punk? Who's he going to wrestle?
Well, Punk's going to SmackDown.
Well, he goes to SmackDown, but who does he wrestle?
Well, you still have Cody. You have Cody, Gunther, and Sammy. So you have 3 instant potential #1 contenders. Then, of course, you might have LA Knight, but I'm so scared that LA Knight needs to rebuild a little bit more before he goes back into that picture. You probably have Seth Rollins. You might even have Roman Reigns versus Punk at Survivor Series to unify the titles. There's always that to look at, or just bragging.
You hope, anyway.
I hope. I really hope. But it could be bragging rights. Who's the better champion? Which is good. You're going to make one brand look bad. It's honestly like the fact of the matter is, I know we're not allowed to do this, but there's a lot of speculation that we can do now. We can actually try to figure out what's next, and we're really not allowed to do that. So I'm looking at this as overall positive. Now, here's the question. What's going to happen at SummerSlam? Obafemi, who won the King of the Ring, is fighting Brock Lesnar. Now you have these three. Are we going to have either the elimination or are we going to have the triple threat match leading into it from earlier in the night or the time before that? What do we have to look forward to with Punk being champion right now? I don't think he's going to be stale. He's a babyface champion, but he's still that CM Punk that could be a tweener. He's very much a tweener going into the Roman Reigns thing. So are we hitting a gray area that Vince said way, way back? It's not about good guys and bad guys. Are we back in the dipping our toe into the gray area?
Maybe. There's one other thing that I completely forgot to write down, but I want to make mention of it now. Is when they say, you know, this was a great build, it was a short-term build. Yes, Sammy was champion for maybe too short of a time for some people to fully appreciate. He's basically a transitional champion, but I think in this sense it'll work out better for him. And you know, now he's a champion. Now he's a proper contender to the title instead of just like an also-ran, a fill-in as well. So you make another star from that. But here's someone who had basically his card stamped as a potential breakout star of 2026 after his feud with El Grande Americano. Now, Chad Gable has all he's done since is do the apology tour, and now, after like over, it seems like a month or so, now he's just another guy. Again, this is the absolute worst possible scenario for Chad Gable, is that not only is he just another guy in the middle of the roster once again, he's not even as good as he was 2 years ago. He's just a guy now with no personality, losing.
Well, unfortunately, we correctly predicted that would happen, right? That they either run back the same exact angle in America with those two guys, or they do nothing with them. Here's getting back to a positive point. Here's what I think makes what happened different with Punk, Sammy, and all this stuff. Do you believe, because I'm starting to lean towards believing this, do you believe that all this was already booked before Saudi Arabia?
You mean for Night of Champions?
No, last night, to have Sammy win it like he did, go into Chicago, Punk returns.
Yeah,
Punk
I think
wins
so.
it.
I definitely
It
think so.
feels like this were they prepared for this.
Yeah. There was rumors that Punk was coming for weeks and returning at Chicago as well.
Not
But
that
I'd be
part. Not that
interested.
part. I meant the whole thing that we saw. Do you think they said Sammy wins it? We go to Chicago. Punk's going to win it. We're going to put Cody and Gunther over here, and Sammy, you're going to lose the title to Punk in Chicago.
Yeah, no, I think so, yeah. I don't think it was a reactionary thing. That's what I'm saying. I think they knew that Punk was returning at Chicago. They wanted... I genuinely think it was the best way to handle it. But it does smack of something that they planned for weeks, and also that probably had Punk's input specifically as well, to make sure it went down properly, rather than the usual WWE thing of, we'll just rewrite it on the day 10 times.
Well, let's get through this week, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing, too, is that there's one word that we used all the time when we were doing the Russo show, and it's what they showed with this that they don't show with the other things. Effort. It feels like they put real effort and care, is another word, into this whole thing.
That brings me to Chad Gable. Well, let's just get through this week. Oh, well, we've blown off that thing. Now what do we do with him? We'll just throw him out there, see what happens. That's it.
Pretty awful.
Okay, we have to talk about the maybe the biggest news of the week before CM Punk. Well, Sami Zayn lost the title to CM Punk, and this is Sheamus leaving WWE, and this is particularly interesting for a good couple of reasons, really. This is Wrestling Inc.'s write-up. According to Fightful Select, Sheamus' existing WWE contract was set to expire in the imminent future. Straight away there's something fishy going on, because in January 2025, he said that he just signed a 5-year deal, which would have taken him through to 2029. Then all of a sudden, they're saying that his contract was about to come up. But then a few months earlier on the Pat McAfee show, they announced that Sheamus' contract was an extension, not a brand new contract. So somewhere someone's wires have got crossed here. It's somewhere between two and who knows? It doesn't matter ultimately, but that's weird. But here's the big deal. They approached Sheamus, did WWE TKO, saying, well, we're not using you that much and we want to cut your pay in half, like they did with the New Day. Also, like Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston, Sheamus said, absolutely not, that's not happening. So what has happened here is that WWE aren't renewing his deal. They're kind of painting it, I guess, or it's seeming like, hey, we didn't fire him. Sheamus wasn't going to work with us on the old contract thing, and they're just letting it expire. So Sheamus is going to be a free agent quite soon, so we understand, in the next couple of months. It would be my guess. He's 48 years old. He was having some of his best matches ever in the last couple of years when he was allowed to. He's also injury prone. He's been with the company 20 years practically at this point. A lot of different factors to consider there. What do you think of Sheamus leaving?
Well, it's definitely a trend and probably won't be the last one to try to have a, if indeed he had his contract restructured, meaning a 50% pay cut, according to the trend that the New Day thing started, with them looking at that stuff. Some people did take it, according to Nash, correct? Didn't he say some people took the deal and are still making really good money?
Yeah,
So
they said, he said, or there's been ventured out the number, about half a dozen or so people were approached, and the people who were approached were long tenured wrestlers with WWE who are on really big contracts, who they feel for whatever reason they're not going to use very much. So therefore they wanted to cut their pay in half and save some money for the 90 million
well,
bonuses.
isn't that the funny thing though? Like Sheamus doesn't control how much he gets to be on TV, wrestle, and do all these things. So in a way, they can stop pushing you and do it. LA Knight, let's talk about it again. They can stop putting you on TV, do nothing with you for months or even a full year, and then say, well, hey, you haven't won a match in months. You haven't had a match in months. And then here we go. We're going to cut your pay in half. And it's like, that wasn't my call. And Sheamus, yes, was having excellent matches when he was allowed to. I always worried about Sheamus because years back, he was diagnosed with spinal stenosis, and that took him out for a very long time. So there could be a medical element with the age factor, but really what it comes down to is the bean counters, right? As Road Dogg would say, we got to cut this because Mark Shapiro and our Emanuel, they need their $12 million bonus or whatever this year, and let's go with that. Let's take it from Sheamus.
Dude, the top 4 executives in TKO WWE gave themselves $90 million bonus on top of what they made the previous year between 4 people.
They took a lot of bumps, didn't they? So getting back to Sheamus with that, 48 years old, there's a lot of different elements in this. I know Booker commented on it, and a few other people. You are looking at somebody that's almost 2 decades in the company. And there may be some lifers that went from wrestling to commentating like Booker, or wrestling to training, or working at the PC, or even booking like Undertaker's booking AAA along with other people. Rey Mysterio is also on-screen GM, as he's a part-time wrestler in WWE at this point, is my guess. But Sheamus, hey, did they even try to offer anything for him to do to stay with the company, or just, here it is, pal, take it or leave it?
I kind of imagine the latter because he hasn't wrestled for 9 months. His last match was also John Cena's last match on Raw. It was that 6-man with Cena, Sheamus, and Ray versus the Judgment Day, where they all do the 15 knuckle shuffle together and then, hit the finishers, and it's a feel-good moment. So that turned out to be his last WWE match as well. What if I say this, and you tell me if I'm right or wrong, or if you agree or not, is he is 48 years old. Maybe he's not in the plans anymore. That's absolutely fine. But I kind of think with how much money the company is making, maybe as at least a thank you, WWE should honor the contract they signed him to. It's not his fault creative don't have anything for him.
They could always do that, but when have they ever done that? There's not a no-cut clause or anything like that. It's strictly, you have to honor the contract, but we don't. We can cut you at any time for any reason or cut your pay. But then again, he has being in the same company, especially at WWE bubble for almost 20 years. And this is a guy, by the way, I'm really nervous. You know why? My fitness channel's already on the skids, and this dude had an awesome fitness channel that was already way better than mine. So I do not welcome the competition. Although there's no competition. His is better. I really liked his workouts with some of the boys and what he had going on in his garage gym for a good amount of time. So he has a future. He can have a future in the fitness industry. He can have a future in AEW. He's already got his real name, correct? On social
Yeah.
media, he changed it over.
Yeah,
So, hey,
Valerie.
maybe it's time, as they say in football, to
Valerie.
get that bag. Get the bag, get millions of dollars, get that pension, get your retirement money and work. Maybe you'll have, you know what? There's a weird thing in wrestling too. There's like the old toys, new toys. And now Sheamus, New Day, they're considered to be old toys by TKO, right? That's why they're cutting their pay. So what's weird is there's people that have been in the company like a Triple H for decades, and they became more and more over with the crowd. They became more and more pushed as time went on. What's missing here? Then there's people like Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins that will always be figured in until the time they decide, I'm done. Why is Sheamus now the guy that's overstayed his welcome, where other people become more welcome with the years and decades as they go by?
Yeah, it's interesting as well because Kofi Kingston's a former world champion, Sheamus, multi-time world champion as well. It's when Vince McMahon
And
left.
Sheamus was friends with Triple H. They were Triple H. Good.
What's going on there is because Vince was a big fan of Sheamus, obviously. Then he goes, and then when Triple H takes over, it seems that Sheamus went on the down to. Yeah, there were the injuries and everything else as well. But let me give you this one. WWE and AEW's rosters, they're both for the most part really stale. There's just not the turnover that there used to be, and there's nowhere near as many shows either, as well. So I think roster turnover is good. But then on that basis, why just re-sign Sheamus for 5 years? On that basis, you're barely using him anyway. It's not like he's outstayed his welcome in that sense. And he's not even troubling the main events. He can be plugged in anywhere like Samoa Joe, but it's like you could use him anywhere and he's good to have on the shows. It's not like people are sick of him. So why sign him in the first place or re-sign him in the first place and then change? Same with the New Day.
I would challenge you more, all three guys. Why get rid of them if you can plug them in anywhere and fill them in and they're reliable? Durability-wise, that happens to everybody. But every time you put Sheamus in there, I've never seen, as a matter of fact, Sheamus is so physical, sometimes he hurts himself. I've heard that critique of him. Very physical style, which makes him a freak at 48 to still be able to get in the ring and go, even with spinal stenosis and all the other things. Do we have this? I use the term bizarro world. Why do we have this thing where as they get more experience, more tenure, and dare I say, New Day had a great edgy heel character turn or pivot that they could have got a couple years out of. And then they turn babyface and have the retirement tour. But with Sheamus, I just don't get it. And now it's like what wrestling does is we are the ones that didn't book you. We're the ones that didn't use you. We're the ones that didn't sit you at home. Then when it comes time for the contract to be cut or extended or whatever, they turn around and say, well, you're the one that didn't show up. It's you. We tried. Not on us, brother. It's so weird how it changes. So much gaslighting.
I'd be interested to see if he can keep his name because he was Sheamus O'Shaughnessy on the Indies before he went to WWE. So, but I think he spelt it slightly different, like Sheamus without the H. So it'd be interesting to see what name he could use if he does end up continuing wrestling outside of WWE. But MJF is basically...
Can I bring up a point? Can I bring up a point? I'm sorry, before you mention MJF. Isn't it strange? There has to come a point, and maybe he did what I did, but I don't think they would do it. There comes a point, if you're in a company for 19, 20 years, shouldn't they at least extend the courtesy of you carrying that name to somewhere else? If it's worthless to them at this point, enough to cut your pay in half or just let you go mid-contract, then why are you saying, well, we still want to keep it? What's the difference at this point? Why? Like I had an addendum in mind to screw them over.
Yeah. There is no other reason to make them worthless elsewhere. That's it.
So it's petty.
What do you think it isn't? Of course it is.
No, I mean, I'm asking an honest question. Like, why don't you do it? Maybe it's rhetorical because they are petty and selfish and greedy. Like, your name's not worth anything, but we want to keep that worthless name. Give the guy that did, you know what? The guy's probably going to finish the career in WWE, get a Hall of Fame induction, whatever it might be. Don't you think whatever he does there will still carry back here? Now I understand maybe there's a little bit, God forbid if the guy gets in trouble outside WWE, he still has a WWE like no name, but that dude's not one of those dudes, from what I know.
MJF has kind of like taunted Mr. Farrelly, Sheamus, the former Sheamus now, into coming to AEW. Some people have said, oh, it'd be great to see Sheamus there, 'cause it's not like he can't still go, best we know anyway, because he's been gone nearly a year. But then my thought was, dude, you've got the New Day going over. You've already got Edge and Christian. Sting's gone. Jeff Jarrett's not really there anymore. But you've got the Hurt Syndicate. Others, Billy Gunn, Dustin Rhodes. You've got a lot of fresh ex-WWE guys immediately migrating over to WWE, sorry, to AEW, who've just been fired. So it kind of reduces their value already. Or released, whatever you want to call it. You couldn't come to an agreement. They want to cut your pay. I mean, that's not a great look, obviously. AEW doesn't really need anyone more like that, do they? Because they've already got a bloated roster as it is, and a lot of young guys already not getting TV time. Do you really want to get another ex-WWE guy and put him in the mix straight away?
That's a great question. There's a few different elements to that. The number one is the creative thing, and you have a great core of talent where if Sheamus comes in, then somebody else has to be not on TV, back in the locker room, sent home. It's only a limited amount of spots. The other thing is that AEW was actually criticized a while ago for becoming WWE light, the WWE style. They say they're trying to carve out their own thing, and it seems like they're doing it now, but they're providing also an Edge and Christian match. But Edge and Christian are also working that AEW style a little bit more as well, mixing in WWE. Here's an interesting thing here, directed at Tony Khan. If New Day and now Sheamus, whoever else, were having their pay cut in half, which I'm assuming Tony or somebody knows kind of what these guys were making in WWE, then you cut a 50% discount on that. What does Tony offer them? Does he offer them what they would be offered in WWE? Does he overpay them? They're not going back to WWE, at least not anytime soon. Do you see how, like, they're kind of trapped at a ceiling, at least initially, with the money? How much money, unless politically, Tony loves them. Here's $1 million a year, whatever it might be. But essentially, they could be working for the same exact, or maybe even less money in AEW than WWE. That's a trap right there, where they don't know what the outcome will be.
It's funny how WWE, like, almost inadvertently devalues the wrestlers immediately in that sense by offering them less.
Yeah, because you have to look at that. And if you're looking at it as a business, okay, say Sheamus was making $1 million a year and they were going to cut him to 500,000. The best AEW would do from a business standpoint was offer him the same $500,000, which is still a lot of money. Or they turn around and say, well, we're going to give you a 3-year. First year is 250, second year is 350, third year, we're back up to 500. They could very easily do that. And Sheamus might be looking for an opportunity to show WWE, I can do much more, and take the 250 initially just to go and prove them wrong. And he's working once or twice a week, maybe. He can also get a limited schedule. I only want to work like TVs and pay-per-views, or just Dynamite and pay-per-views, whatever it might be.
Let's say just work full time in AEW. That is a limited schedule.
Well, I'm saying, like, I don't want to do collision tapings or any of this other stuff. I don't know. I'm just trying to figure it out. But actually, the leverage, it seems, is in Tony Khan's hands. He can get some really great talent at a really good price. But like you said, creatively, you already got what, 10, 20 people sitting at home. Use them before it's a very fluid situation.
Dude, 10, 20, I'd say 100. 100 plus sitting at home. ready to go, I think, at this point. But anyway, we're going to end the show here. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. We are out every single Thursday, if you didn't know, with a brand new episode on YouTube and all podcast platforms, as well as fresh clips on the YouTube channel, The Stevie Richards Show, every single day. Over to Stevie to take us all out, and thank you all, especially the Patreon supporters.
When you said that, I had Road Dogs. Oh, you didn't know? So even people, if you can make a mark like they did, every time I hear you didn't know, I think of Road Dogg from the Attitude Era. Isn't that something? So big shout out to him. I want to see what happens with him possibly being head of creative for TNA. We'll be following that as well. I want to thank everybody here on YouTube. Please remember to subscribe, click the bell to get notified. Of course, comment. We have more fan questions we'll get to in a 3-week interval. We'll come back.
We're
to
doing
these.
2 weeks this time because the fan question should have been last week. It depends what happens. If Dark Side of the Ring throws up something that we have to do 2 episodes on, basically, we may end up, deferring it another week. But ultimately, we're thinking fan questions in 2 weeks' time for now.
Because they kind of do roll in with the current news and current happenings and other things that tie in. So we do appreciate the questions. Please comment below, and of course, patreon.com/Stevie Richards. James said watch-alongs every Monday, 9 a.m. Show notes every Tuesday, 9 a.m. And of course, guess what time? Thursday is the show before the show, the pre-show, 9 a.m. every Thursday. I want to thank everybody once again for supporting us through 105 episodes. See you next week for episode 106 of The Stevie Richards Show.